Well, he clarified that's what he meant because 3 days later he went on Truth Social and he said the only reason why they're still alive is to negotiate.
And when you say they, he was referring to the folks in power, correct? Was he? I mean, unless 90 million people
now
negotiate,
we know that he was referring
do
to
90
all
million people
Iranians.
negotiate, Dean? Yes or no?
The only reason that any Iranian is still alive is to negotiate. And we know that because he said that he threatened to kill a whole civilization. A whole civilization is not just a country's government. A whole civilization would be comprised of every member of a country, every member of
No,
a
civilization. Well, so we're having disagreement here on the definition of civilization.
Okay, yeah,
and
define
I think
civilization.
that you and I both know, and that it still hasn't happened.
Can
right?
you define it?
But
Define the word civilization.
yeah, right after you. Go ahead.
After me?
Yeah, I want to accept your definition. Since we're on your live and we're going to play by your rules and you got the mute button, let's go ahead and play by your definition.
Okay. A civilization is a large group of people that live together, broadly.
And so you think that Trump has the same definition of civilization as you are in this sense?
Well, I mean, that if you're accepting that's the definition of the word civilization, then yes. What do you think Trump meant by civilization?
I mean, infrastructure.
Infrastructure is not civilization.
Destroying
a civilization's infrastructure.
I agree.
Listen, destroying a civilization's infrastructure would be like, quote unquote, sending the civilization back to the Stone Age. It's not destroying a civilization, not completely killing a whole civilization.
Yeah, but you know
Because
Trump.
We also have to consider what it means to die. What does it mean to die? That means to have your life ended, right? So when Donald
whether
Trump
you're in the womb or
says
not,
that a whole civilization will die tonight, okay, well, because he uses the word die, we know that means to have the lives ended. And because civilization, the definition of civilization would be a group of people, and then he says whole civilization, which would be referring to every member of said group of people, we know that he's threatening to genocide 90 million people. Yeah, let's see how this dense asshole works his way out of that one. See, this is what a lot of Trump supporters like to do, folks. You'll see this every single day if you happen to watch my live streams. They like to hold on to very absurd interpretations of the things that Donald Trump says to work themselves out of having to concede that Donald Trump is crazy, that he's insane, that he's a lunatic, that he's evil.
You know what's insane is killing your unborn.
Okay,
that's what's insane is killing your own children.
So then you just admitted that Donald Trump is insane because a U.S. Tomahawk killed 160 girls at an elementary school in southern Iran.
Are these children are unborn in the womb? Is that what you're? See how I say something?
So you're admitting? Wait! You're admitting that you only care about the deaths of children when they're inside of a woman's uterus, not when they're born? Got it. Got it. No, thank you so much
You're
for
really
just telling
strong with that mute
telling the
button.
whole
Your mute
world
game is strong,
exactly
Dean.
who you are and exactly what the pro-life you stands for. It doesn't stand for kids, okay? It doesn't stand for the next generation of leaders that are in schools today, like the 160 Iranian girls in that elementary school. It's only about the very small.
No, you see, this is where consistency. This is where our consistency.
Stop interrupting me. Shut up. With no ability to subjectively interact with the world around them. You only care about the clumps of cells, man. You don't care about the born kids. So this is exactly why you call a 9-year-old girl that's been raped and now wants to get an abortion insane because she doesn't want to have to experience bodily torture and mutilation. But then when Donald Trump threatens to genocide 90 million people and kills 160 girls at an elementary school in southern Iran, okay, well, that's not insane at all because they're out of the womb. Sir, if anybody's insane here, it is you.
Wow, you know how many times you muted me while you're on that monologue and I said nothing?
Not enough.
How many times did you mute me while you were on that monologue and I said nothing, Dean?
I said
Tell
not
your
enough.
audience. You're really good at that mute button. That's about the best skill you've got, my brother.
Thank you for
And
admitting
I
that
would
I'm skilled.
fully expect that Iran would do the same thing in this instance. Our consistency, it applies itself across categories. And so, yes, I can be pro-life and I can be pro-America in the sense that, look at these coordinates that we got. I'm not happy that it happened in Iran, but this is wartime and things like that happen. I'm not going to defend, obviously, the taking of life that occurred there. I think it's a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened. We took the coordinates from, wherever we got it from. and we acted on those coordinates. That was a mistake, and we have since apologized. What would you have liked them to do otherwise, Dean?
I have a question. Do you accept that the IRGC is terroristic? They're a terroristic, oppressive body?
The IRGC is... I notice how you don't answer any questions, but you expect your guests to. You said, what was your question? Who is the IRGC?
Wow. So you support killing 160 Iranian girls, but you have no clue why, because you don't even know what the IRGC is.
Yes, the Islamic Republican Guard, yeah. I was confirming your question, Dean. I know how you like to turn this into like a presentation. You're here, you say you're about changing minds, right? But really this is all performance.
Oh, was that all? Or are you going to answer the question I asked?
Yeah, who's the Republican Guard? Yeah, the people in control of Iran right now, I guess, because I think that their official leader is like some cutout, or maybe even he's dead already. So what, do you think that the
do you
leader...
think that the people in charge of Iran are terrorists?
I don't really even know who's in charge of Iran right now. Do you?
Yes.
Who?
Khomeini Jr.
So you've seen him?
No.
So how do you know he's in charge, Dean?
Because that's what what U.S. intelligence says, and that's what Iran says.
So on this issue, you'll accept U.S. intelligence, and on other issues, you'll totally reject U.S. intelligence.
Such as?
Nuclear capabilities.
No, I accept the U.S. intelligence there too.
Okay. So they were,
because U.S. intelligence says that they're not an imminent nuclear threat, contrary to what Donald Trump says. But would you now answer my question?
Are they not a nuclear threat?
They're not.
So then why are you denying U.S. intelligence?
I'm not denying U.S. intelligence. U.S. intelligence reaffirms
U.S. intelligence says that they're a nuclear threat, Dean.
No, that's not true. Why are you just lying? You're lying to lie. Do you know who Tulsi Gabbard is?
Yeah.
Who's Tulsi Gabbard?
He's a cabinet member, or she's a cabinet member, excuse me.
Crazy.
Yeah, she used to be on your side, but you guys got all crazy.
Stop pivoting.
And because she had a different... Don't do not mute me, Dean, unless that's your only power play.
You're taking this as an opportunity to say that the liberals are crazy compared to answering the question of what does Tulsi Gabbard do.
You asked me who is Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm telling you, she's an ex-Democrat. She left you guys. Yeah, she left because you guys don't accept a different opinion.
What does she do? What is her official job?
She left because you guys don't accept a different opinion in your party. Unless you tote the party line, you get kicked out. Ask Bernie Sanders, ask Tulsi Gabbard, and she now sits on Trump's cabinet. She's a ex-military member. That's who Tulsi Gabbard is. What's your next question?
Cute rant. What does she do for the Trump administration?
Yeah, she's the director of what is the NSA or the...
No, she's the director of national intelligence. So
yeah.
You claimed that U.S. intelligence indicates, and has indicated since the start of this war on February 28th, that Iran is an imminent nuclear threat. And because she's the director of national intelligence, this would mean that that's something that Tulsi Gabbard claims, right? So just to clear up the debate, your argument is that Tulsi Gabbard maintains that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat on February 28th when Donald Trump started the war, right? Right?
I wonder, does she speak, and now this is a serious question. So she's in charge of FBI, she's in charge of the CIA.
She's legit in charge of all intelligence. She's the leader of the U.S. intelligence community. And to repeat myself, you said that the U.S. intelligence community says that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat. So to clarify, because she's the leader of the U.S. intelligence community, the representative of the U.S. intelligence community, your argument is that's what Tulsi Gabbard would say.
And I'll concede that I'm wrong if you have footage of her saying...
nuclear threat, right?
And I'll concede that was an incorrect statement if you have footage of Tulsi Gabbard saying...
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, There has been no effort since then to try to
when was that?
rebuild
That was
their
in
enrichment
25?
capability, end
June
quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the
So you just heard Tulsi Gabbard, okay, the director of national intelligence, testify in front of Congress to John
In June of
Ossoff
25.
under oath under penalty of perjury, okay, to the fact that we completely destroyed their nuclear program months ago, obliterated it, okay, and that they haven't even started on trying to rebuild it yet.
How many things
they're
can
not an
change in a
imminent
year?
nuclear threat.
So almost a year has gone by since that statement, correct?
No, this was last month.
That wasn't June. That was 25.
No.
She's referring to the bombing of the nuclear plants, correct?
Yes.
Play it again.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
And the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
So how did she say that they're not a nuclear threat? She actually confirmed that they were a nuclear threat by saying that they've eliminated it back in June. What are you even saying?
Wait. Your argument is that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat in February of 2026 because we completely destroyed their nuclear. Don't interrupt me. Do not interrupt me.
Track me, Dean.
I'm gonna finish speaking. So your claim is that Tulsi Gabbard was saying that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat on February 28th when Donald Trump started this war in
That's
Iran.
not what I said.
Okay, then you're not claiming what the White House claimed. Because Donald Trump claimed the reason why he started this war is because Iran is an imminent nuclear threat.
When did the war start?
February 28th.
Okay. So that question that they asked, see, we're getting our timelines all mixed up here and we're convoluting. She was asked a question, was the threat eliminated? And when was the timeline of that threat being eliminated, Dean, in that question?
The threat was eliminated last year, and then she followed that up by also telling John Ossoff that U.S. intelligence indicates that they haven't even started on rebuilding it yet. Thank you. If they haven't even started on rebuilding it yet, that means that they ceased to be this quote-unquote nuclear threat last year, and they haven't been a nuclear threat since because they haven't tried to start rebuilding their nuclear program.
Well, as you'd like to say, Dean, praise Allah.
Wait, praise Allah that Donald Trump is lying? Because once again, the official statement.
Rebuilding, that they are not
so do you therefore agree that the White House and Donald Trump was lying?
Do you think that a nuclear Iran is a good thing?
I think what is a good thing is to not have a president that's a fucking liar. Now, do you accept that Donald Trump was lying when he claimed that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat and that's why he bombed them on February 28th?
Do you answer my question, and then I'll answer yours? Do you want to see a nuclear Iran?
Not really on the surface level. It's a pretty nuanced and complex political analysis. But
then
what I will say is I don't
Trump.
think that nukes should be possessed by any country. But it is a little bit more nuanced and complex. We won't get into those nuances because you're an idiot. Now answer my question.
No, because you want to stay on the
accept that
surface
Donald Trump was
emotional level,
lying, okay, when he said that the reason why he bombed them on February 28th is because they were an imminent nuclear threat?
No, I think that we were goaded and baited into a bad decision on behalf of Donald Trump, and this war has not gone the way that he thought it'd go. Yeah,
So do you accept that
this
he
is
was
not the war
lying,
that I voted
or
for.
Do you accept that he was lying when he said that they're an imminent nuclear threat late February? Or do you reject that he was lying when he said that they were an imminent nuclear threat late February?
I'd entertain the possibility that they still had some nuclear capability in February. I don't know to the extent of what capabilities those were, but to speculate, it would be speculation on my part and your part
what's your evidence?
to assert one way or another. So with what certainty can you say that there...
That claim is false. I'm not speculating by asserting that Iran was not an imminent nuclear threat when Donald Trump bombed them in late February, because I have evidence. My evidence is the unilateral consensus agreed to by the entirety of the U.S. and other international intelligence communities. What is your evidence that they were an imminent nuclear threat?
So I'm saying, I said this just before you started talking, and then going on a monologue and muting me. I think it was 20 times while you were talking. I said nothing. Right? You're really good with those mute buttons. I'm speculating, Dean, and so are you. So you said your claim is that they have no nuclear capabilities. Provide evidence for that claim, Dean.
Okay, the unilateral consensus agreed to by the entirety of the U.S. intelligence community.
Wow,
Yeah.
That was a mouthful. Did you hear that on the UN stage or something like that? Is that where you got that? Where did you get that evidence from, Dean?
I said U.S. intelligence community, and I got that information from Tulsi Gabbard testifying in Congress. And Joe Kim.
So Tulsi said that I see. So she answered a question based on 2025 event, and that leads to your conclusion that in 2026 there are no nuclear capabilities.
Tulsi Gabbard said two things. The first thing that Tulsi Gabbard said is that we completely obliterated their program last year, and then the second thing that Tulsi Gabbard said is that they haven't started to rebuild it since.
You said the entire intelligence community.
Yes.
I think you used the word.
Here's the third thing that she said.
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, the third thing she said is that this was the assessment of the intelligence community.
It seems like not only you. It seems. I won't interrupt your laugh. Go ahead. Very good, dude. So it seems like you not only defend the unaliving of babies in the womb, but you defend Iran's right or ability, in your eyes, to develop nuclear capabilities. And I don't know if you know this, but they like to chant death to America. And it seems like you're okay with the destruction of American civilization. You got a real problem with Donald Trump talking about unaliving people or equating unaliving people with civilization, but you got no problem with folks in Iran chanting death to America and their ability to develop a nuclear weapon.
Holy pivot. So, I mean, like, not only were those baseless assertions that don't represent what I truly believe, but they were a pivot.
Oh, wow.
Because remember, the point that I wanted you to respond to was my refutation of your claim that I have no evidence that Iran does not have a nuclear program or that Iran is not an imminent nuclear threat, when that evidence is the unilateral consensus of the entirety of the U.S. intelligence community. And then you said, Dean, what is your evidence that is the consensus of the U.S. intelligence community? Then I pointed you towards the Director of National Intelligence saying so, testify in front of Congress under penalty of perjury with a bias towards Trump, because once again, she is a pro-Trump MAGA a conservative that was appointed to be the Director of National Intelligence by Donald Trump. So how about you actually respond to my refutation of your claim that I have no evidence of that, of the fact that they were not an imminent nuclear threat, instead of ignoring the evidence after I give it to you, then making wild assertions.
Yeah, so Tulsi Gabbard is the leader of the intelligence community. That doesn't mean that she is a unilateral voice for everybody in the intelligence community. Have you ever had a boss, Dean?
Yes.
Has that boss ever had an opinion about something that you disagreed with?
Yes.
Okay, so she spoke for you, or he spoke for you, and that's your view under your standard. Is that not an accurate statement?
I'm not quite sure what point you're trying to make.
Are you losing me now? I think is your cognitive dissonance hitting you. Let me rephrase what you're saying. You said that Tulsi Gabbard unilaterally speaks for the intelligence community. And if
when she says that this is the opinion of the community, she is unilaterally speaking for the community. Yes.
So if there's somebody in that community who has not just a belief, but has evidence otherwise, but Tulsi Gabbard doesn't speak to that, at least publicly in a public setting, right? She's speaking for that individual?
Then she'd be going to jail. We know that this hypothetical person doesn't exist, Because if somebody inside of the intelligence community had overwhelming evidence that proved the consensus wrong, well, then the consensus wouldn't have been the consensus in the first place. But if the evidence was suggested afterwards and after that consensus was formed, then the consensus would be overruled.
Let me ask you this.
No, you listen to me. If there was enough evidence to dispute
Holy
said
shit,
consensus of the community that they are not an imminent nuclear threat, then that wouldn't be the consensus of the intelligence community. And we know that this hypothetical person doesn't exist because you can't give evidence that they do. I want every single person watching the live right now to consider one very simple fact. That simple fact is I'm the only one bringing any evidence to the table. I'm the only one that is playing clips of the director of the national intelligence saying that they were not an imminent nuclear threat. I'm the only one proving that the consensus of the U.S. intelligence community, is that they did not have a nuclear program, as it was completely obliterated then never rebuilt. What is this guy's evidence? He doesn't have any. If I were to ask him, name one person in the U.S. intelligence community that claims they're an imminent nuclear threat or they have begun to rebuild the program, he would be left speechless and he wouldn't know what to say because all he has is his feelings because he's an indoctrinated cult member. In fact, I'll prove that to everybody watching. Go ahead and name one person inside of the U.S. intelligence community that has presented evidence that Iran is an imminent nuclear threat. Do not pivot, do not dodge, because I have a very strong feeling, and I feel like this guy's about to prove me right. When he starts to speak, he's going to talk about how he was muting him. He's going to just once again pivot off into the ether, talking about how I am a terrorist sympathizer and I love Iran. But he's not going to name one person inside of the U.S. intelligence community that has presented evidence that they have begun to rebuild their nuclear program.
So you use Tulsi Gabbard's words as evidence, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to use Donald Trump's words as evidence and hold ourselves to the same standard. And the only way that I would be rendered, to not be able to speak is by your mute button. All right. But let's bring this back to the original
reason why
issue.
You can't. Yeah, listen. I just told the entire stream that you would pivot, and then you proved me to be right. So the reason why you cannot take Donald Trump's word as evidence is because when Donald Trump said those words, he wasn't testifying in front of Congress under penalty of perjury and under oath.
Are you done speaking?
Yes.
Or are you about to mute me if I start talking again?
I'm done speaking.
Okay. So you used Tulsi Gabbard's words as evidence. You called this hard evidence. And then I used Donald Trump's words as evidence, and you call that no evidence.
Yes, because
Explain
of
yourself.
Because of two different reasons. The first reason is that Tulsi Gabbard was testifying in front of Congress under penalty of perjury, meaning everything she said would be fact-checked by Congress because they have access to the classified intel shared in the U.S. intelligence community, and if she was proven to have lied, she would have gone to jail. There's a first difference between Donald Trump and his assessment that they're an imminent nuclear threat, and then her assessment in front of Congress that they're not an imminent nuclear threat. Now, the second reason I have to share with you insofar as why we should believe her but not him is because she has no reason to lie. It's actually inconvenient to the narrative of herself, MAGA, and the Trump administration to say that they're not an imminent nuclear threat, because then all of a sudden President Trump is a liar and we have no reason to be at war with Iran. However, Donald Trump clearly does have good reason to lie. That good reason would be the justification of a needless war in contradiction of his own promise when running for the office of no new war. So for those two reasons, that clearly describes why we should believe Tulsi Gabbard, but we should not believe Donald Trump.
Before you ask another question here, let's bring things closer to home. If that's okay with you, Dean.
Don't pivot. Whatever you're like, whatever you do.
No, I'm asking you for permission to pivot.
The fact that no, I don't give you permission to pivot. I need you to admit that you have no evidence.
Last question on this topic, then we're going to bring it back closer to home.
That they're an imminent nuclear threat.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and restate what I've said 3 times. I'm going to use the words of the U.S. president, and I'm going to take them at their face value.
I've given you 2 damning reasons.
You may not like my answer.
You can't reasonably do that.
And that's okay.
Respond to the 2 damning reasons that I gave.
You don't like my answer, and that's fine.
I want you to respond to the reasons that I gave insofar as why I don't like your answer. The 2 damning reasons that I explained.
Sure, the difference under penalty of oath. Yeah, I got it.
And the second one?
Remind me?
He had reason to lie, she didn't.
And his reason to lie is to perpetuate the war, I'm assuming?
Justifying the war that he started in contradiction of his promise of no new war.
Wonderful. What a transition to my next
No
topic.
pivot. Admit that because of the two damning reasons I gave you, you cannot reasonably believe that Donald Trump was telling the truth when he said that they were an imminent nuclear threat.
So, are you familiar with ROI and what that means?
Return on investment. Now, please respond to the fact that
I'm
because
trying
of the two
to,
reasons
Dean.
I gave you, you cannot reasonably believe that Donald Trump was telling the truth when he said that Iran was an
I
imminent
can't
nuclear
reasonably
threat.
without you interrupting me, that's for sure.
Well, I just don't want you to pivot, dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to respond to your question about why this war may be justified in the terms of ROI. Is that okay for me to go on like a 30-second little spiel without you hitting your little fancy mute button?
That is not I mean, what a shitty argument. I mean, imagine trying to justify a war because of a quote-unquote ROI. That's nuts. But no, that's not okay for you to do because that's a pivot. The conversation that we're having is not about the justification for Donald Trump's war in Iran.
You got control
Rather, the
issues,
conversation that we're having is about if Donald Trump was telling the truth and if we could reasonably believe that Donald Trump was telling the truth when he said that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat. I want you to respond to the two reasons I gave you to demonstrate why we cannot reasonably believe that Donald Trump was telling the truth when he said that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat.
Look, imminent nuclear threat in 2025. It was real. We bombed it. Now, I already conceded that we're in war with Iran because of information that we got. At least this is my understanding from the Israelis that, has proven to not be necessarily as based as they sold it to us.
Wait, so you're telling us that
this
Donald
is where
Trump
we are,
believed
but now we're
Israeli
going to make
intelligence?
the best of the situation.
Wait. So I just want to clarify.
Dean, go ahead and interrupt me for the third time. Go
Your
ahead.
argument is that Donald Trump believed Israeli intelligence over American intelligence?
Israeli intelligence is what over American intelligence?
I mean, your argument was that Israeli intelligence indicated that they were an imminent nuclear threat, but we've already gone over Tulsi Gabbard and what she said about how American intelligence did not indicate that Iran was an imminent nuclear threat. So your claim is that Donald Trump believed Israeli intelligence over the imminence of a nuclear threat from Iran compared to U.S. intelligence. So not only on the surface level is that not fucking America first, but also Israel has been saying that Iran is weeks away from having a nuke since the 90s. I'm not joking. Since the 90s, every single month or two, like clockwork, Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Iran is 2 days away from having nukes. Iran is 2 weeks away from having nukes. Iran is 7 days away from having nukes. Iran is a year away from having nukes. Iran is 4 months away from having nukes. Iran is 1 month away from having nukes. And like clockwork, is a quote-unquote Israeli intelligence has been indicating that they're an imminent nuclear threat for the last 30 years. So not only are you arguing here that Trump is America last because he believed Israeli intelligence over American intelligence, but you're also arguing here that Donald Trump is a dumbass because he believed Israeli intelligence over American intelligence when Israeli intelligence has been consistently wrong about this specific claim for the last 30 years straight.
And you defend the murder of babies. So let's pause here.
God, he
let's
can't
pause
do it.
here.
He can't debate. He actually can't debate.
Hold your thought. Hold your thought.
This fool actually legit, he can't debate. Whenever he loses, he says, "Oh, Dean, you support abortion. You just got fucked on so hard. How does it feel to get completely obliterated like their nuclear program?
What does it mean to be fucked on, Dean?
To get completely obliterated like Iran's nuclear program?
Oh, so hold that thought, okay? Would you... have you been invited back to Jubilee?
Yes.
And why haven't you gone?
Because the invitation is for a date that hasn't happened yet.
So you've committed to going?
Yes.
When is that?
Can't tell you.
Is it this year?
Yes.
How do we attend that?
You can't.
How does one attend that?
By signing up for their future Jubilee episodes on Jubilee's website.
Right on. Hey, man, well, I mean, if you want to keep going, I'll keep going. I think that I started this debate on abortion. I'd love to keep it there. I know how you want to go to Iran. And I think that there is ROI, there is a return on investment for the efforts that we're making in. Are you an adult? Will you, come to this table with some dignity and hear out the other side? Or do you just want to laugh and giggle and interrupt and use your mute button and pretend like you've got the moral high ground, like you're winning? Because you're not by doing all of those things, Dean. You're winning now when you sit in silence and listen to the other side. If you'll give me the opportunity to speak. But that's not what you like to do in these lives, and I get that. This is performative. You're here for your donations. You're not here to change minds. So, a little bit of your own medicine. Go ahead and take it like a good boy. Thank you, Dean.
Why is this guy so pressed?
Thank you, Dean. Good. Yeah. Oh, do you want to thank your guests right now? Go ahead.
It's okay. I could thank them later.
Okay, so there's a return on investment to be made here. If we control the straight
Tori, thank you so much for the $25 donation on PayPal. Let's get 250 Tori W's down below in that comment section. That is Torey. Tori with a 50 says, this man just hates women. If you say it's murder, if it were, then you'd have exactly zero exceptions. Murder is murder. You just, bro, I have a fucking stutter. Sometimes it's more pronounced than others. I'm out to control women. I hope all women avoid this guest. Me too, Tori. Thank you so much for the $25. Show some love to Tori down below in that comment section. I appreciate you. Eli, thank you so much for the $10. Let's get 100 Eli W's. I have seen that video, Eli. It is really cute. Thank you so much for the love. On Venmo, holy fuck. Jamie, thank you so much for the for the $70 donation. Jamie, this came in 12 minutes ago. I'm so very grateful for you. Thank you so much for the love and support, Jamie. I want to see 700 Jamie W's down below in that chat. Thank you so very much for the incredible love and support, Jamie. Show some love to Jamie down below, who says, people who are MAGA should win a medal for the level of mental gymnastics that they perform every day to continue to justify the lengths that they go to support him. I know, Jamie. This guy's nuts.
How about the gymnastics that they do to defend the murder of babies? Holy crap.
Dude, everything's about abortion for this guy. But then when I actually had a debate with him about abortion, he ended up conceding that he was pro-choice. He got dunked on in that debate too. Yes, you ended up conceding that moral value doesn't start until birth because you messed up your words. Thank you, Jamie, for the love. Caroline, thank you for the $25 donation. Shut up. Caroline, thank you for the $25 donation on Venmo. Shut up. With the $25, Caroline says, remind the guests that Trump's threat of genocide would kill pregnant Iranian women and their unborn too. Does his stance on abortion still apply? Keep killing it, Dean. Good point, Caroline. Thank you for the $25.
Dean kills it with the mute button.
Shut up, quite frankly. I want to see 250 Caroline W's down below in that chat. Thank you both, Jamie and Caroline, so
Nobody's
much.
as good as the mute button.
Thank you so much for the $5 on Venmo for the work. Emily with the $10 so much for the grift. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Emily. And then Ben, thank you for the $5 as
Nobody mutes like Dean.
Be quiet. I'm still thanking my donors, quite frankly.
Be quiet. I'm still muting people.
Super chat, static. Oh my God. Thank you so much for the $100 on Super Chat. Holy fuck, dude. I want to see 1,000 static W's down below in that chat for the $100 donation. On a very real level, Static, I'm so very grateful for you. That is so much fucking money. Not a bone in my body deserves that much love. Show some massive love to Static for the $100 dono, who says, I don't ball out on super chats like this ever, but it's my birthday today. I found your channel last Friday and have been watching your lives daily. Thank you for what you do. Also, we are zip code neighbors-ish, and I work in education, coaching PF debate next year. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Static. I'd assume that you're like, what, in like Palisade or Fruita, maybe even Clifton? Thank you so much for the love, Static. Happy birthday. Show some massive love to Static down below in that chat for their birthday.
Happy birthday,
Static. Thank you so
Static.
much for working in education. That is so meaningful. As well as Thomas, thank you for the $20 to tell this caller to act his age. He can't do that. Dead Walking with a $10 says, caller, you're crashing
Easy
out.
for Dean to say, 22.
When you're talking about a return on investment concerning murder/war.
Definitely
this is the guy saying that life matters and it's very valuable. Area, thank you for the $20. Who says, hi everyone, how's everyone doing? Well, I'm doing good, Area. Thank you for the $20. And then Donovan, thank you for the 10. Who says, listening to MAGA is more IQ dropping than sniffing diesel. This caller probably sits in his mom's basement eating paint chips and drowning his insides with Mountain Dew. What an embarrassing display. Dude, y'all are cooking this fraud. Oh my God. And you guys are still cooking this fraud. On Venmo, thank you so much, Samantha, for the $20. He says, guest is so against abortion, but is fine with this bomb.
Yo, thanks for the gift.
Why aren't they all the same? Shut up. Thank you for the $20. Fries ass.
No,
and then Haley Haley, thank you for the $5 as well. Thank you so much for that love, Haley and Samantha. Show some love to Haley and Samantha. I'd also like to quickly thank Alexander for the $15 donation on PayPal. I appreciate you so much, Alexander. Show some love to Alexander down below. And I have listened to reggae. I love reggae. Hell yes.
Dude,
and then Sonia and Ross, thank you both for the 5. I appreciate you guys. We're all caught up. If you guys do want to support me,
fan club, you're the best.
If you guys do want to support me or the stream, you guys can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio on TikTok, pin message on YouTube, with Dean Withers without the E, right there. Go ahead and take it away, man. You told people to donate to me. You told me to thank my donors, so I just thought I'd take an opportunity.
Yeah, I gave you the opportunity. Wasn't that nice of me?
Yeah, good boy.
Yeah. Yeah, so thanks, Twizzy. Thanks for the gifts. I appreciate everybody that's been sending this stuff.
Can you stop grifting, bro?
Oh, shit. Dean, you don't offer people the same opportunity that you had to thank your supporters?
No.
Wow. So you're for me and not for thee. That's how it is for you. Yeah. And I bet you apply that standard equally across all of your behaviors, huh?
No, that's what conservatives do.
Well, it seems like, thank you, Anthony, for the gifts there. I appreciate that. It seems like your actions say otherwise. Dean, prove me wrong.
Okay. You haven't consistently seen me uphold the view, rules for me, but not for thee, or only caring about myself.
I just witnessed you do that.
Worldview. No, you gave me one circumstance of me doing that, because I'm okay with me thanking my donors on the live stream, but I'm not okay with you thanking your quote-unquote donors on the live stream as a response because you're mad, okay? But, in other respects, I absolutely do advocate for egalitarianism and equality for all. Unlike Trump, who, took healthcare away from 10 million low-income Americans when we already have 51,000 that die every year via lack of access to healthcare, to then have more money to fund further tax cuts for the top 1%. Unlike Trump, who illegally refused, to allow emergency expenditure towards the 12 million children that only don't starve because of food stamps during the last 12 days of the government shutdown. Like Donald Trump, who wants to invade and annex all of our neighbors from Greenland to Cuba to Colombia to Mexico to Canada to Venezuela and now Iran. If anybody would uphold this premise of fair treatment for me but not for thee, it would definitely be the president rapist who you support.
Yo, thank you, Eric. I don't understand how you could say one thing right after you've acted in other fashion. I understand how your audience might go along with that.
Well, because you're grifting and I'm not. I don't allow grifters to thank their donors. If you weren't grifting,
well, I've been thanking them. Thank you, Thor and Noose. Are you going to kick me, or are you just saying this because you're, Dude, saying things just to say things? So if
I'm fucking with you, can you take a joke?
Well, no, you're not.
Holy
though.
Shit.
You're saying one thing and you're muting me, right? And you're.
I'll mute you again because it's fun.
What a big man you are, Dean, with your mute button.
Thank you.
Why? So how's that going to work when you get to Jubilee and you don't have a mute button?
Oh, I don't need to mute people to win. It just makes it easier.
You do need to mute people, Dean.
That's not what my 1v20 said. That's not what my sit down with Emily Wilson said. That's not what my 4 hours of debates on the ground at America Fast, all publicly available on my YouTube channel, said. That's not what Kai Schwimmer's ambush of me as I was leaving AmFest said.
So why do it then, Dean? Honestly, then why do it?
Because it makes things easier.
So you like the easy way?
Mm-hmm.
So easy way out. I don't want to do hard things. That's me. I'm Dean. I don't like to do hard things.
I don't want to be bald by 23 because of the cortisol spike in which is induced upon myself when every word in which I say is pronounced via an interruption of
bald.
some
what does that mean?
Idiot.
What does that mean? Bald.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be bald by 23 because of the cortisol spikes, man. Now, are you going to continue to engage in baseless meta conversation? Or are you actually
I don't know if I'm going to continue to engage in a debate where I'm just muted, every 30 seconds.
I know you want an easy way out to leave the live stream.
No, you want.
How about this? I'll promise that I don't mute you if you don't interrupt me, and I'll simultaneously give you that same extension of gratitude by promising I won't interrupt you. How about that?
Deal.
Okay, perfect. So at this point, I would like you to respond to the arguments in which I provided to prove that Donald Trump was lying about Iran being an imminent nuclear threat, and then the counter arguments that I provided against your follow-up claim that, well, Israel gave him intel that they were an imminent nuclear threat by pointing out the fact that they've been making that false claim since the 90s, so it's very unreliable to trust Israeli intel, on top of the fact that this would make Donald Trump America last because he's willing to trust Israeli intel over the American intel that indicated they were not an imminent nuclear threat.
All right, let's see if Dean follows through with the promise that he just made to not interrupt. But I've already conceded that, Israeli intelligence is not very trustworthy, that the nuclear threat was eliminated in 2025. I don't know what progress has or hasn't been made since then, and anybody making claims otherwise is speculating, Dean.
Wait.
Unless you're Tulsi Gabbard.
So I'm not speculating if I want to uphold the view that they're not an imminent nuclear threat, because we know that their entire nuclear program has been wiped out. And we know that because the director of national intelligence testified to that fact under oath, where if she lied, she'd be sent to jail, knowing that Congress has access to classified intelligence intel, and they will ensure that she was telling the truth. Not to mention that she'd have no reason to lie about that. She'd actually have reason to lie about the contrary, that they were an imminent nuclear threat, because that would be convenient to the narrative propped up by the administration that she's employed by.
Yeah,
So that's why it's not speculative to conclude that they are not an imminent nuclear threat.
Yeah, so does new information come... I'm sorry to interrupt there. I thought you were done. Does new information come through? And if new information comes through that is contradictory to claims that have been made in the past, is that somebody lying?
No.
So then what are we still hashing this argument out for, Dean? And if there is an ROI, if the United States becomes or replaces Iran or Saudi Arabia as the top sales producer of oil in the world, if Russia, if China, if Europe turns to the United States after we gain control of the Strait of Hormuz, instead of going to Iran as their producer of energy, is that a net benefit to the United States of America? Yes, sir,
Dean.
Dean.
Has no clue what he's talking about. Iran is not the leading...
Answer the question, Dean.
Well,
if the world...
So you just interrupted me, so now I'm going to mute you. You agreed that you would not interrupt me and I would not interrupt you, and that if you did interrupt me,
you were not answering my question.
You. I was in the middle of describing to you how your question was underpinned by false pre-assumptions. Your question falsely preassumed that Iran was one of the world's leading producers of oil. Your question falsely preassumed that now America controls the Strait of Hormuz. That's not true. A sanctioned Chinese...
It was an if question, dude.
You're still interrupting me. You can't be serious. We just agreed moments ago that we would stop doing that after you've snowflaked out about getting muted because you were interrupting me. Hello?
Yeah, I said if...
Also, you're positing, what if America gets control of the Strait of Hormuz? That actually wouldn't give us anything. Because America controlling the Strait of Hormuz would just mean that American oil tankers could freely go in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. But before Donald Trump went to war with Iran on February 28th, our oil tankers could freely go in and out of the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, answer my question then. I said an if hypothetical situation. You love to present those, so you understand how useful they are when you're trying to make an argument. And I get that, if it's for thee and not for me. I get how your rules are, right? But if that question was presented to you, and in this hypothetical, you had to answer that if the United States became the leading salesman of oil in the world, and countries that haven't bought oil from us in the past start buying oil from us, wouldn't that be good for our GDP? Wouldn't that be good for the lives of Americans on the ground every day?
Sorry, some MAGA freaks video started to play on Twitter. Go ahead.
Holy shit, Dean. Where do you want me to start again?
No, your question is, if we started selling more oil, would that be good for GDP growth? Yes. What does it have to do with the war in Iran?
So then it sounds like you're conceding that perhaps there's an ROI to be had here.
Going to war with Iran does not help America sell more oil. What?
Controlling the Strait of Hormuz does, because if we don't let Iranian oil pass through there, they can't sell very much, can they?
How much oil does Iran sell? They're sanctioned by half of the world.
Does sanctioning mean they don't sell anything?
Dude, please give me. I want you to show me how much oil Iran sells. I bet it would just be like a very small blot on a data point that would be comparative to 0.0005% of our annual GDP growth. Give me a source. How much oil does Iran sell? Tell me.
So I'll just go ahead and state this, that you still haven't answered.
No, I'm asking you a clarifying question. You have to tell me how much oil Iran sells, because I don't think they sell very much, considering once again the fact that they're sanctioned by half of the world.
So sanctions prohibit, it stops all sales.
Thank you so much for the
sanctions stop all sales.
Yes,
is that what you're
countries
saying?
In which sanction them. Yes.
So nothing happens under the board. There's no like black market or any trade of oil when somebody's sanctioned. And Russia's proved
not that we have evidence of. Not that we have evidence of.
Oh, so you're saying only if there's evidence, that means that oil doesn't move unless there's evidence.
We should only believe in things when we have evidence to believe them. Yes.
Even if oil's moving, we shouldn't believe it's moving if there's no evidence. Is that what you're saying? If it's not written down.
If you're positing that oil is moving, then we would have evidence of it, right?
Oil moves even if there's nothing written down sometimes, right, Dean?
Prove it. Give me evidence. Give me evidence that countries in which have completely sanctioned Iranian oil have secretly bought oil from Iran. Prove it.
Okay.
Oh, wait, you can't because you have no evidence for what you believe
I present to thee.
By the way, check this out. His quote-unquote evidence is just going to be some bullshit.
I present to thee Venezuela. How did Venezuela make so much money when they were sanctioned for so long and they weren't able to sell any oil?
Give evidence that that countries in which sanctioned Venezuelan oil under the radar engaged in the black market trade of oil with Venezuela. Prove it.
Thank you, Eric, for those. Hey, and so yeah, Venezuela continued to earn money, didn't it?
By probably buying and selling oil with countries that weren't sanctioning them. Hello? Like, what's so complicated about this? What is so fucking complicated about this?
No, it's not complicated. You're just making a bad argument. You're saying that a country doesn't sell...
I'm making a bad argument by asking for evidence for what you are saying?
Yeah, you're asking for evidence of a black market trade. That's what you're asking for.
Yes.
And you know that it doesn't exist.
A multinational. Oh, you admit that you have no evidence.
You're saying give me evidence for a deal that happened under the table.
Okay, so then you admit that
aren't you, Dean?
So then you admit that your sources trust me, bro, because you just admitted you have no evidence. Hey, man, here's my most compelling argument insofar as why you shouldn't support Trump. Okay, he has raped upwards of 300 children. Now, if you ask me for my evidence, I'll tell you that I don't have any evidence because, of course, there wouldn't be any evidence of it if it were to be true. But I'm just going to baselessly assume it to be true, the same way that you're baselessly assuming that we secretly buy oil from countries in which we sanction.
Well, I'm not going to baselessly assume that you guys have unalived 200 million babies.
Wait. You just said you're not going to baselessly assume things. Well, if you're not going to baselessly assume things, then all that means is that you're only going to believe things to be true when you have evidence for them to be true. And you've admitted that you don't have evidence for it to be the case, that we secretly buy oil from Iran even though we have complete and total sanctions on Iranian oil. Therefore, you just concede the point.
No,
Good boy.
I didn't concede anything.
Oh, okay, so then you're upholding an act of contradiction. The act of contradiction is that you're simultaneously affirming that you can believe in things without evidence, while also affirming that you can't believe in things without evidence. The claim that you can't believe in things without evidence is being affirmed by you saying that you're not going to just baselessly believe things, because that means to believe in things without evidence. And then you affirming that you are going to believe in things without evidence is once again coming from the fact that you believe that the U.S. is secretly buying oil from Iran, even though we have complete sanctions on them, while simultaneously acknowledging that there's no evidence for that belief to be true. So anyways, thank you for walking yourself into a clear, certain, and strict contradiction.
Thank you, Dean. I appreciate you. Are you about to kick me, or is that how this works, or?
No, I'm just happy I could walk you into a clear, certain, and strict contradiction.
Okay, well, I have evidence that I've got about 50 of your supporters who are telling me that I should unalive myself. I've got evidence that you've got about 200 million unalived babies, all right, that have been, and you're defending that this year, and we should continue to be able to unalive babies. And, I'm going to go ahead and remember the beginning of this debate where you said there's some nuance on this, that there's some nuance. And the fact that you're saying that because it doesn't exist on paper, it doesn't exist at all. Well, you know what? I hope you never join politics, Dean. I really hope that that's never the case. I hope you stay here in this little box.
He's telling me that I shouldn't join politics because I'm saying that I only believe in things with evidence. I know that that's a type of person that you don't want in politics, because if that type of person were in politics, then you'd be fucked. Because Donald Trump believes in things without evidence on a daily basis just because it's conducive to himself or his narrative. And you love that. And you love that so much because you're just as irrational as he is.
I'm done being muted and held to one-way standards rule.
okay, that
Rules for thee, not for me. That's
only start believing in things with
Don't vote.
evidence. We need people to think critically.
Don't vote.
We need people to be reasonable, and we need people to only believe
Rules
in
for
things
thee.
when we have evidence that they exist.
not for me. That's Dean. Rules for thee and not for me. When you follow Dean's ideology, that's what you're adopting. That's the hypocrisy that you accept. Rules for thee, not for me. So thank you for the time up here. But yeah, I'm done being muted halfway. Go ahead and go on to your next guest. I thank everybody that's out here supporting the conservative value.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's go and get that next guest loaded back up into the box right now. Only up inside of that queue if you happen to be MAGA. I know that I said that other guest would be the next person. I don't see him in the queue, which is totally understandable because it's been an hour and 12 minutes. Let's go and get that next guest loaded up into the box right now.
Hey,
Tanner,
dude.
welcome in. Do you support Trump?
No, I actually want to tell you I'm a former Trump supporter, reformed, and I just want to tell you do a great job at everything you do. Please don't block me. I just wanted to be quick. I actually sent you a message too, just
Love
telling
that.
you about the work you've done and that I'm not a full Democrat. Not saying that, but I will say ever since I fell off from him about when ICE was starting to be employed, and then the war, no new wars being broken, and a bunch of other policies.
Tanner, I love to hear that. Thank you so much for revoking your support for Trump. I appreciate you for waking up and seeing the light, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. That's awesome, man. Good to see that there's more people coming around. I won't block you either. Shout out to Tanner. Welcome in. Do you support Trump?
Oh, yeah, kinda.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
If the election was held tomorrow between Trump and Harris, who'd you vote for?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't vote. Okay, well then I don't even really think that you're a Trump supporter. Let's go to get that next guest loaded up into the box right now. Only up inside of that queue if you happen to be MAGA, you guys. All right. Who will be next? Who will be next? This is JG. We got joining the stream over on Super Chat. Area, thank you for the $20. Thank you so much. I want to see 200 Area W's while we're looking for that next guest down below. Thank you, Area. That is beyond kind of you. Area with the 20 says, can we see Momo? We need her in these desperate times against this fool. My office door is closed and she's hanging out with my girlfriend. So you guys unfortunately probably won't see her at all today, but she's probably napping. Thank you for the $20, Area. Welcome in. Do you support Trump? Selfie? Selfie? What about you, Gavin? Do you support Trump?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing all right. Are you MAGA?
I am, but I got a question for you before, because I can't
shit.
go and debate real quick, but I got a question for you.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you said that you can't debate?
Nah, I can't debate. I just literally joined right now. I got a question for you, though.
I appreciate you for coming up, Gavin. I am definitely down to take questions as long as they pertain to a debate about why you support Trump. So for that reason, I am going to disconnect you. But if you ever have time to debate, feel free to hop back inside that queue. On Venmo, Grace, thank you for the $10. Who says, when this guy brought up Jubilee, had a mental image of him talking to the chair and everyone raising their flags. Yeah, that guy would be pretty fun to destroy in Jubilee. Thank you for the $10, Grace. Welcome in. Do you support Trump?
Yeah.
How old are you?
18.
What year were you born in?
2007.
What month?
January.
You'd be 19. You lied. Liar. Deary, thank you for the $5 on Venmo for cooking MAGA. Rachel, thank you for the $5 as well. And then Morgan, thank you so much for the $10 donation on Venmo. It says this guy's the male version of Jill. Yeah, he sucks, dude. Holy. And then Christina, thank you for the $10 as well. He says, how weird for this guest to talk about how big your quote-unquote mute button is. Thank you for all that you do. MAGA's weird, bro. They're always weird. They're weird-ass motherfuckers. And then Anastasia, this came in 10 minutes ago. Thank you for the 50, for the 50. That is crazy. For the $50 donation, Anastasia, that is beyond kind of you. Thank you so much for the love. Show some love to Anastasia down below in that comment section, everybody. Anastasia with the 50 says, finally caught alive. It's been a while. I love watching your VODs on YouTube, but nothing compares to being live. Thank you for all that you do. Best to you, your girlfriend, and Momo. Anastasia, that is beyond kind. And I bet there's something, to it. When you watch it live compared to watching the VOD, it's a bit different. It's a bit more real, if that makes any sense. Thank you so much. Show some love to Anastasia down below. Welcome in. Do you support Trump?
I support what he does for Israel. That's what I support about. Because I'm 18. I heard a month you asked the last guy. I was born July 2007. So
if the election was held tomorrow between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, who would you vote for?
Donald Trump.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to finish thanking a couple donors here, man. Ben, thank you for the $25 donation of Venmo. Says, oh, it's that serious? Then why are you still on the phone and not in uniform? If it's serious enough to risk lives, then it should be serious enough to risk yours. Yeah, that guy needs to hop on the front lines right now, Ben. I couldn't agree more. Thank you for the $25, man. Very kind of you. And then Shania and Emily, I appreciate you both for the $5. We're all caught up over on Super Chat. We're all caught up on Venmo. We just need to quickly catch up on PayPal. Dude, there's a couple of you guys on PayPal that, we have 2 people to thank on PayPal. Tori and Natalia. You guys are like crazy in like the best way possible. So kind. Tori, thank you so much for the $150 donation. And Natalia, thank you for the $100 donation. That is so much money. Like genuinely unbelievable. I have done nothing to deserve that. And Philip, thank you for the Tide Collar Trident. We just got a crazy gift on TikTok. What the fuck? Yo, that's crazy. Philip, thank you so much for the Tide Collar Trident. I've never seen that before. Show some love to Philip, Natalia, and Tori in that chat. All 3 of you guys, thank you so fucking much. That is insane. Show some love to Tori, Natalia, and Philip. Thank you, 3. Tori with the $150 says, if you want, read this to him slowly. So this was for the last guest. We're going to read this now. You and others like you are the reason America is the shit show it is. You claim that you're pro-life, but when it comes to forcing birth on women, you say we shouldn't be able to vote, but men are out here attacking women. We're the problem. Yeah, women will always be the problems in the minds of those, and which are the problem, because they want to distract away from that fact. It's very well worded. Tori, thank you for the $150 once again. Same thing to you, Natalia. Thank you for the $100 once again. And then Philip, thank you so much for that vol gift. That's crazy. If you want to support me or the stream, ask a question, get a message across. You can find my Venmo, PayPal link in the bio on TikTok, pin message on YT, and right there, Dean Withers without the E. Now, sir, you're a Trump supporter. You said it's because of his support for Israel. I got to ask you a quick question. Are you America first or Israel first?
I've been told from others that I'm Israel first because, like from their example, like if I had a choice between being drafted to the American army or the Israeli army, I would choose getting drafted to the Israeli army. I don't know if does that make me Israel first or America first?
So what do you consider yourself is the question that I'm asking. Do you consider yourself to be America first or Israel first?
Can I be honest with you? I have no idea what that means. If I will be completely honest with you, I don't know.
What country matters more to you, America or Israel?
I'll be straightforward with you. I think because Israel is my homeland, I would be Israel first. But in my synagogue, when we go and we pray, we actually pray for America first before we pray for Israel. We say. Bless our.
So when you vote,
yes.
You vote for the best interests of Israel, regardless if they're the best interests for America.
No, I will say this. I haven't
if something
voted. I
were
just
to
turned 18.
benefit Israel, but hurt America, would you support it?
If it were to benefit Israel and support and if it would benefit Israel and hurt America, I don't think I'd support it if it hurts America.
Okay.
If it supports Israel and supports America, then yes, I would. But
okay. If you're
one,
telling us that you wouldn't support things that benefit Israel but hurt America, I just think that you're not going to have an argument here rooted within Donald Trump's support for Israel, because his support for Israel absolutely hurts America. I mean, the culmination of his efforts, just spinning the need to Netanyahu and whatever that genocidal, ethno-expansionist, terroristic state over there in the Middle East wants. It has materially resulted, in us spending over $1 billion a day, on a war in the Middle East that Israel started, that Israel wanted us to hop into and start with them, that has cost the lives of American servicemen and women and the lives of innocent Iranians, And then us, just shelling out all of that money for their offensive military means. Oh my God, that's also disgusting. Because what are they doing with that money? Setting up illegal outposts in the West Bank, genociding and slaughtering innocent Palestinians, setting up blockades, forcing the starvation of Palestinians in Gaza, threatening to completely ethnically cleanse every Palestinian living on the Gaza Strip. But I guess I'm kind of getting distracted here. My point is that There's nothing, okay, in which Donald Trump has done for the best interests of Israel that has benefited America.
Okay.
Name one thing.
That Donald Trump has done with Israel that has benefited America.
Yes.
I think. Can I have a moment to think about it? If that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
What has Donald Trump done that's benefited Israel, but also benefited America? I think because. So correct me if I'm wrong, and this might not be the answer to your question, and I'm sorry if it's not. And I'm sorry if I get it wrong. So in so in Israel, so Israel is the only place where America has the capability to have military outposts in the Middle East. Yes.
No, that's not necessarily true because we could have outposts, like we could have like military on water insofar as different means of boats, and not to mention our military bases in countries like Qatar. I mean, we have outposts and proxy of the UAE and Saudi Arabia because of the money in which we give them. But I guess just descriptively, to make it simple, your claim is false. No, we happen to have military bases in Qatar.
Okay. Can I ask you one question going back to the Palestinian genocide?
No.
I know you said
because you're still trying to answer the question of what is one
of course.
thing that Donald Trump has done for Israel that has benefited America.
One thing Donald Trump has done to support Israel but benefited America. I think I could be wrong, and I will probably be wrong if I'm honest with you. I'm not a liar. That's one thing I'm not. I think sending weapons to Israel will also sending the military boats to Israel would be helping America because then it would be giving Israel the capability to take care of the Islamic regime of Iran and while taking care of the Islamic regime of Iran, once that falls, then I'll do all of the other terrorist proxies in the Middle East as well.
Ain't wrong. If I had like a red buzzer, I'd hit it right now. Apparently, no. All the weapons that we gave them, I mean, weren't spent on taking care of the IRGC. They were spent on taking care of innocent, like, Palestinian kids. My evidence for this would be very simple, because according to Joe Kent, the ex-head of counterterrorism, Israel couldn't handle the terroristic IRGC by themselves, so they pressured America into starting the war with them by dropping missiles on Iran on the night of February the 28th.
Okay. Wait, on the regime or on the people of Iran?
Both.
It's interesting because I speak to a lot of Iranians, and they say that they love Israel. It's interesting.
Okay. So are you going to respond to the fact that I was able to prove you wrong? You suggested one thing that we do for Israel that helps us is to give them like weapons in which they then use to take care of the IRGC. But the evidence in which that claim is wrong is very simple. The evidence in which that claim is wrong is the fact that Israel pressured America into starting a war in Iran to take care of the IRGC because they couldn't do it themselves.
I don't know. Can I ask you a question? Would you mind if I looked it up on Google's AI to see if they did anything, so that I at least have my facts straight? I know what that means. I know that makes me look weak and whatnot because I wouldn't know. But
I just argue here the fact that you can't name one thing Trump has done for Israel that has also benefited America refutes your original claim that you voted for Trump because he benefits Israel, but you never support helping Israel if it means hurting America.
I never voted for Trump. I never
support Trump. When I say vote, I mean support because you were not.
I support some of the things he's done for Israel. I don't support some of the other.
I'm gonna move on because I feel like I've disputed your argument. I got you like stun locked there, and you're just not seeing it. So I'm gonna move on. That one was simple. Okay, he said that he wouldn't support helping Israel if it meant hurting America, but then he couldn't name a single thing that that Donald Trump's done to help Israel that also helped America. And seemingly, like everything that Donald Trump has done in direction to Israel has in turn hurt America, which would be in confliction with his previously described stance that he wouldn't support things that help Israel but hurt us. Hi, welcome in. Do you support Trump?
I do support Trump. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 20 years old. How you doing?
Doing all right. So you were on the Tommy Stone show. So
You like that?
You do a daily show about Trump?
Not exactly about Trump, kind of more finance. I just started within the last couple of weeks. Actually, you've given me some inspiration. I love the way you attack people and go at them, so kind of trying to maybe give my side, the independents, maybe a little bit more help, trying to prove our points. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a die-hard Trump supporter, but on his economic policies, I'm definitely a big supporter on, so I guess that's kind of where I'd like to maybe talk to you about that.
Sure.
I am nervous, too. I've never been on a live stream, so this is like, again, I've started a couple weeks ago, so I'm excited. So, again, thank you for letting me kind of talk.
Yeah, I just don't see how anybody could argue Trump is good for the economy. He's destroyed it. All the way from GDP growth faltering to the growth rate of real median wages faltering to the worst jobs report since through ignoring recessions last year under him in 25 to the most manufacturing bankruptcy since 2010 to us losing 92,000 jobs in February alone with increasing unemployment highest since the pandemic and increasing layoffs highest since the pandemic. I do not see how you could possibly support the view here that Trump is good for the economy, but I'm more than willing to let you make that argument, so the mic and the floor are yours.
Well, no, I'm just interested about the job point specifically. It's kind of like an underlying point. So you're saying all job growth or all job losses are because of Trump? That's essentially your point?
Well, I don't think I'd argue all, but like, what I'm saying here is that Donald Trump is very clearly influencing job loss. Okay,
so for example,
that's what matters, because if Donald Trump is very clearly influencing job loss compared to job growth, then ultimately his net impact on the economy is a bad thing. Could you agree to that?
So yes, but this a quick point back to that. So Biden, how many jobs do you think he created in 2025? What's like your baseline? Like, what is a good creating jobs economy? Like, would Biden have been that?
So Biden wasn't president for all but 1 month of 2025. Do you mean 2024?
Sorry, 2024. Yeah, sorry. Would you use 2024 essentially as your baseline?
Yeah. So job growth was much better in 2024 compared to 2025. I would argue that the reason in which we saw a very sharp change in the tides under Trump in 2025 has a lot to do with his bad policy, such as the Big Beautiful Bill, for instance, such as his universal tariffs on all other countries, for instance, or just the general instability in which he created in the market.
Do you don't think the tariffs being able to fund different policies, such as getting rid of no tax on overtime, no tax on tips? We've also seen child credit policies, child tax credit policies double. So you don't think that the tariffs have been able to help that? And Americans paying, again, maybe about $1,000 total extra per household. That's the current stat. I believe it's between 1,000 to 1,200 is the exact number that they've paid in total for these tariffs. You don't think that the benefits we've gotten from them, have outweighed that?
So you were wrong when you said that the tariffs funded the Big Beautiful Bill and its provisions like no tax on tips or overtime. That's simply false. According to the CBO, the Big Beautiful Bill will cost on average upwards of $5 trillion over the course of the next 10 years. Tariffs haven't raised anywhere close to $5 trillion or that proportional amount in last
but
year.
Over 6 months.
Now because the first group of tariffs were ruled as unconstitutional, then inevitably what we're going to see here is possibly American companies winning in court to force the government to refund that money. And ultimately, no, I wouldn't say that that's worth it, not only for the reasons I just described, but also for the very simple fact that the Big Beautiful Bill is in total beneficial to the average American making at or under $51,000 per year due to the economic study done by the CBPP, which is the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, that tells us in consideration of all of its provisions, okay, it actually reduces the purchasing power of people making at or under 51,000 due to its terrible provisions of taking health care away from 10 million low-income Americans, defunding food stamps by $156 billion, or rolling back a bunch of clean energy production credits, reducing the production of clean energy by upwards of 72%, which is reducing the overall supply of energy in our marketplace, which is going to increase the cost of energy upwards of $500 for the average American household. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, the alternative, she ran on straight tax cuts for the working class, so ultimately, no, the average American is not only worse off today under Trump than they were at the end of the Biden-Harris administration, but they'd be extraordinarily better off if Trump lost the election.
So all these cuts you're arguing were perfectly done. There was no corruption cut out of any of these cuts. They were done essentially cutting off only services that were doing good. Is that what you're arguing? There was no corruption, no fat cut off from these cuts?
The cuts weren't designed to cut corruption or fat off. The
so
cuts
like,
were
for example, for
food
food
tax
stamps.
cuts for the top 1%.
So for food stamps, what is your basis? You're saying 155 billion was cut out. How much of that was given to corruption and fraud, and how many of those people are not actually supposed to be receiving?
Yeah, they cut $156 billion not to target and attack fraud. They cut $156 billion because they increased the maximum age you have to be working in order to receive them from like 54 to 58. So because now a bunch of people are ultimately losing those services because they're in that 54 to 58 age group and they previously received food stamps while being able-bodied and not working. Okay, well now all of a sudden the USDA, in accordance with the Big Beautiful Bill, gets to roll back $156 billion that is no longer being spent.
So again, my point to that is, I guess what I'm trying to say is everything that's going on the federal level right now. So I'm from Chicago. It's kind of my basis. You can't use food stamps for any sort of hot meals. It is only used for corporation products. It is a complete corruption scheme. It is only used, essentially, you cannot buy any fresh food with these food stamps. It is not helping any Americans. And the whole point of Trump coming in and restructuring these programs is in order to fix them. And again, what RFK's whole point is a healthy America, be making America healthy again. We're getting rid of these programs that is making Americans fat, subsidizing Ritz crackers, subsidizing Oreos instead of hot and fresh food, and we are changing these programs. So do you think that's a good thing, that we should be changing these programs, essentially trying to get them to reset to actually make Americans healthy and do what they're meant to do and not just give them fat junk food for cheap prices?
Okay, so first you said that you can't get healthy food on food stamps. Do grocery stores sell healthy food?
Well, I mean, again, what I'm trying to say is it's not specifically used. Again, in cities like Chicago, it is specifically meant for...
be used.
No, it's specifically meant for for packaged products. It's specifically for packaged products. You cannot get hot foods. You cannot use fresh vegetables. You cannot do that with those EBT cards.
Wait. So I just want to clarify. You can't use EBT cards at grocery stores in Chicago?
No, I'm saying you can use them at grocery stores, but only for corporation packaged process.
Do grocery stores sell fresh fruits?
But I'm saying you can't use it for those, only for the packaged products. Only for corporation-based products like, again, Ritz crackers, Oreos. I just said I'm from Chicago. I've had EBTs. They gave us, every student in Chicago public schools got $3,000.
This would be a provision in the legislation of Illinois state law. So
yeah, but this happened in every single city. It happened in every single city under Biden. Every single person got EBT.
So please show me that legislation in which EBT can only be specifically used for junk food at grocery stores, but nothing that's healthy.
So, of course, you're right. At the federal level, that has not been said. But again, on state democratic levels, that has been what it has been used for. And we were given
and I'm asking you to show me the Illinois legislation that says, state level food stamps can only be used for junk food, not healthy food. Show me the legislation on the state level.
Again, I'm telling you right now, what it is you cannot use them for the hot meals. I don't have the exact legislation off the top of my head, so I can't if you give me a sec, I could look it up. But it is, you cannot use it for any sort of hot meals. You cannot use it for any sort of fresh vegetables or fruit. I mean, if you want, I can look it up. I don't have the exact state code.
Yeah,
but I guess my other point too.
I will need a source for that claim. And by the way, you said that this was your first time on live. When you can't see me because you're going on pause, likely doing research, which is just fine, by the way, I just won't be able to hear you. I just want to let you know. But yeah, I will need to see a source for that claim. And clearly that source is going to be the regulatory guidelines for the statewide USDA food program service.
Okay, so while I do that, can I ask you a question? Do you think the cost of not fighting China in this trade war and not tariffing them is essentially, like, again, China is stealing between $300 billion to $600 from America. They're stealing between $300 billion to $600 billion from America with their tariffs. They don't allow any American products into their economy to be sold to their consumers. They essentially steal all of our labor, and from that they benefit, again, between $300 and $600 billion. So what is us tariffing them was meant to get rid of that. What is the contradiction? Sorry.
You said that they don't allow American products into their market, yet they do allow American products into their market, and that's why they're able to make $300 billion per year off of taxing the imports of American goods into their market.
No, they said no. That $300 billion is again from them making the money from stealing our labor. Essentially what they're able to do is what, again, another viewer had mentioned this, but he didn't do the best job, is essentially what they do is they undercut our labor. Again, you know this, they get our labor, they're able to do labor for far cheaper prices. And that difference between what our labor costs and their labor is that surplus, and it creates $300 to $600 billion. It is not untaxed imports. It is that surplus, that difference that they make that money
capitalism?
on. Absolutely, I support capitalism.
Well, it seems like you're identifying a very clear issue in capitalism, because under unregulated capitalism, you could just pay people
Yes, you're right.
like pennies on the dollar to make shit for like 12 hours a day, and then all of a sudden steal, quote unquote, from more virtuous producers, in which have standards of minimum wage. Right.
So would you argue that
it sounds
China
like you're
is
identifying. So are we agreeing that this is an issue under capitalism? That this is an issue with capitalism that we need to regulate?
Do you think that China's lack of labor laws is why they're able to do that? Do you think that is China then living under a crony capitalist society?
A lack of labor laws amounts to like closer to like complete free markets without a dictation of regulatory guidelines. So I just want to clarify before I answer your question: you are advocating for a heavily regulated market. If anything, placing you closer to a social democrat. We need more on the progressive side of the economic spectrum, right?
Well, like I said, I'm from Chicago, so absolutely, because the free markets have created things like unions. So in free markets, you can have regulation, but within socialism, there is no regulation because the authority is the person.
Socialism.
Well, you just said that a socialist democrat.
No, I said a social democrat. Social democrats just believe in heavily regulated markets.
Well then, of course, then yes, I'm a social democrat.
The ownership of the privatized means. Okay, you know who else are social democrats?
Well, I mean, you can name that for any side.
Left in the Democratic Party. Progressives further left. Progressives further left to the Democratic Party. That's where the Social Democrats live. Okay, but now I've gotten you to identify yourself with progressives further left than the Democratic Party, as you're arguing from a pro-Trump MAGA conservative perspective. Now we'll respond to the comments about China. Yeah, I think it's shitty that they're able to undercut more virtuous producers under capitalism with lax labor restrictions, allowing them to pay people pennies on the dollar. I think the way that we should account for this is through the deployment of smart subsidies, okay, in which subsidize increases in minimum wage for the betterment of the working class, by then allowing companies to still continue to operate in accordance with paying their workers higher wages while not going in the red, then going out of business. All right. But I also want to point out here that that imposing tariffs on China ultimately has nothing to do with Donald Trump's greater scheme of tariffs, because it's no longer mutually exclusive to remedy any one issue or identify any one enemy like China, but is rather the implementation of sweeping broad tariffs on every other country in the world. Today, the current tariff policy of Donald Trump was when he got mad after SCOTUS shot down his first round of tariffs as unconstitutional. So then he imposed 15% tariffs on every other country in the world. But I want to correct some of the lies that you said earlier about food stamps. Okay, because you still haven't provided a source that in Illinois you can't use food stamps to buy healthy foods. And I wanted to correct another claim that you made, which was that food stamps make people less healthy. And I feel like we've now completely pivoted away from that because you brought up tariffs on China. So I'm happy that I was able to get you to concede that you're further left than the Democratic Party, and then B, prove you wrong, because there's other means in which we could use that are a better mechanism to remedy that issue of the fact that they pay their laborers lower prices, such as smart subsidies in America. And then C, demonstrate that it's not Trump's agenda to target any one issue like lax labor restrictions in China with his tariffs by imposing them on every other country. So now that we've usurped that issue, let's go back to the issue of food stamps. What is the source for the claim that you made?
Again, so under the SNAP rules in Illinois, we got you, Illinois. The whole point of the food stamps is only participating stores can say that you can have, again, those fresh produce items. And typically stores like CVS, Costco, like I'm saying, these big chain stores, they only allow you to use these EBT cards for their packaged items. Again, we got you, Illinois, is my source for this. They're saying also, again, in my personal experience, that's also my source. Again, that's what I'm saying. These big stores.
Wait. So what's the source?
We got you, Illinois. That's about the hot food, where the hot food restriction is only with the stores that allow it. And again, big corporations, like I've said, in Chicago specifically. I can't say for every other state.
So what's the title of the article?
I don't know. It just says, we got you, Illinois. Again, I put in what I said, and it.
But there's going to be like some like article title here from We Got You, Illinois, because I see that We Got You, Illinois is like some like website. Not quite sure what it is. But
Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP/link in parentheses. And again, the other thing too with these food stamps, the issue with certain cities like Chicago is you can be eligible to have food stamps with incomes up to $86,000 in some cases as well, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know about how you feel about that.
Dude, for an 8-person household.
Again, but that the whole difference with that is again,
for an 8-person household. Yes. If the annual income of a family of 8 people is below $86,000, then yes, in Chicago, one of the most expensive cities in this country, they do allow you to collect food stamp benefits. What the fuck is the issue with that?
So the point is people are taking advantage of that. A common use is more kids forge more support on the EBT system. That is a classic point. I know you hate Charlie Kirk, but what did the people marry? They didn't marry the husband, they married their government, because you get far more rewards when you continue to have more children without a husband in the household, because you get more rewards like this. And the Democratic Party, especially in cities like Chicago, constantly reward you not having a father in the household and more kids because they give you more government support.
Wait,
and that
so
is
you're
not
arguing
right.
that it's wait. So the first thing is that you're arguing that it's a bad thing to quote unquote reward families for having more children when we have a declining birth rate. So even if your claim were to be true, I would personally have no issue with it. I think that we should be rewarding families for having more children.
Poor people
and we should be ensuring that they have
kids.
more money, okay, to ensure that those children are better off. All right. So what? The second thing in which you're arguing here is something about not having a dad in the household. Well, actually, if they don't have a father in a household, then they don't have an 8-member household. They have a 7-member household. So your logic contradicts itself here. You cannot simultaneously argue that offering the bare minimum assistance of food stamps for a family that grosses less than $90,000 in one of the most expensive families in America, okay, is rewarding and incentivizing people to have more kids baselessly just to make more money, then simultaneously argue that it also rewards and incentivizes the dad to leave the household, even though that reduces the size of the household, meaning that they get less SNAP benefits. In that breath, you are contradicting yourself, which is hilarious. Now, I got to ask you, I am on the Snap WeGotYouIllinois.org website. I just read through the entirety of this website because it's just simply an information brochure on SNAP benefits. Nowhere does it say inside of this website that you cannot buy fresh vegetables from grocery stores in Illinois with SNAP benefits. Why did you lie?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So you cannot use a EBT. No, I'm not lying. It's specific. Again, what I'm saying is for
where does it say that on this website?
I'm not sure where I'm on the website, but again, what I'm saying is on participating sources.
But this is the source that you gave me. You're not sure where your source says the thing that you claim it says?
Hold on. I'm sorry. What I'm saying, again, my personal experience as well was part of the sourcing. What I'm saying is in participating stores.
Yeah, but the other part of the source was the SNAP article, a website page of WeGotYouIllinois.org.
So I'm saying
the SNAP page of WeGotYouIllinois.org claims that you can't buy fresh vegetables at grocery stores with EBT in Illinois, well then why don't you know where on that page it says it?
So what I'm saying is you're right. Yes, participating stores can do that. But my point to you is why are we rewarding people having more children when they cannot afford it?
When you
but they can't afford it.
So I just want to clarify. You are conceding.
So I was wrong about one minor detail that only, again, it's participating stores. So that was my clarification. I said it's only participating.
Stores
so the
that
majority of
participate
corporations,
in EBT
like I have said,
benefits.
CVS, Costco,
1 second.
They all deny it.
So when we talk about participating stores, all that we mean is stores that participate in the EBT food assistance program. So it's saying all stores in which will accept EBT benefits will allow you to buy fresh meals.
Okay, great. So how is that benefiting people who have 8 kids, nobody in the household? Why are we just giving them more money? Why are we rewarding people who cannot afford more children to have more children? That is also the baseline problem with this. Again, it is not used to support people to get out of poverty. We are simply subsidizing their poverty, and we should not be doing that. We need to get people out of poverty. Do you agree with that? Do you think we should be getting people out of poverty?
We can't just jump and skip over the massive bombshell that we just uncovered. The massive bombshell that we just uncovered is the fact that you were very much so misinterpreting what your source says. Because when your source says that only participating stores are stores in which you could use your EBT benefits to buy fresh, healthy food from, you took that to mean that out of all of the places you could spend your food stamps, only a very small amount of them will allow you to buy fresh foods. The other ones will just let you buy pre-processed foods. When in all reality, that claim, only participating stores will let you buy fresh foods, is saying only the stores in which accept food stamps will allow you to spend those food stamps on anything, including fresh foods. So I want you to completely concede this massive pillar of your argument against food stamps, that at many stores that accept food stamps, they won't allow you to buy fresh foods.
Again, the food stamps was like one minimal part of the argument. I had brought up that as like another part of the social programs. You are right. I did say all stores, and it was only specific stores. So you are right on that. But to my point, why you haven't answered my question?
All stores in which accept food stamps in Illinois will allow you to spend those food stamps on fresh foods.
But
it's
how
not
is that benefiting
there's a
the
smaller
family?
subgroup of all by giving them more
Why
food
are
to
we
ensure that they don't
subsidizing
starve.
people who should not? Why are we giving people who cannot afford more children? Why are we subsidizing them and encouraging them to have more children when they cannot afford that?
That's
Shouldn't we
not
be
the
encouraging
case.
them to have less children? So why are again the numbers
not
I said?
the case.
When
That's
you
not
you
what
said it
happens.
yourself. 8 children. You can if you have 8 children, you can get food stamps up to $86,000. So we are completely subsidizing the fact that if you have more children, you can get more money from the government. We are rewarding people to have more children when they cannot afford it.
So do you think that we shouldn't give families in poverty more money when they have more children?
Absolutely not. You know that's a ridiculous statement.
Okay, so I just want to ensure that you think
It has to be done correctly.
That a
We cannot-
homeless. I just want to ensure that you think that a mother in poverty that makes $10,000 per year with no children should get the same amount of government assistance as a mother in poverty that makes $10,000 per year with 10 children. So we should just let her 10 children starve to death. And that's the ultimate issue with the view in which you are providing. Ultimately, you think that children should starve to death if it means that our government could save a penny on every $50 you spend in taxes to then turn around and spend on another useless war in the Middle East costing upwards of $1 billion per day, or to spend on more corporate subsidies and bailouts for the ruling elite and the billionaires. See, you want to subsidize another diamond necklace for Lauren Sanchez after her wedding with Jeff Bezos. You want to subsidize another mega yacht for Mark Zuckerberg after he sold a quarter of his stocks, built off of the fact that we're not taxing realized gains for billionaires enough. You want to subsidize, another fucking trip to the stars and back through SpaceX, who hasn't been able to get to the moon when NASA got there in the 60s as a government entity. Instead of subsidizing, food to ensure that the next generation of leaders, the next generation of doctors, the next generation of politicians, and the next generation of school teachers have what they need to ensure that they could go to class and pay attention because they're not starving because their mother's impoverished, and you don't think our government should be doing anything about it. It is sick, it is twisted, and it is backwards. We should not be fighting for the ruling elite. Stop punching down and start punching up. The next generation of children matters more than another mega yacht for a billionaire.
No, of course, and you're completely correct. And I believe the whole point of the government, again, is to give the assistance to those who absolutely need it, and that we should just not be incentivizing people who are poor to be having more children to get more benefits. But to your point, again, you're just calling me a bootlicker pretty much of this capitalist. Meta, I believe something that is very strong is Meta. Again, these companies, they are complete scammy companies. I totally agree with you on this. Meta, 10% of their revenue comes from scam ads. I believe we totally need more regulation. And you're right, maybe I might be a social democrat in that way, and we might agree on that. But I just do believe that we do need to clean up our social safety nets. And do you think we can agree on that? That there's fraud and corruption that we have to clean up?
I gotta hop
in. Can we
in
agree
here.
on that? Can
Yes,
we at least agree on that?
Yes.
There we
You
go.
made a claim.
So we have
you said that we should be
agreement.
giving
I'd love
government
to see it.
benefits. You said that we should be giving government benefits to those who absolutely need it, but we shouldn't be
course.
giving more government benefits to families with more kids. There's
No, like I said,
nobody.
people can't
No, moment.
afford
Let
having
me make this
children.
clear. Let me make this clear. There's no one who deserves and absolutely needs government assistance more than the children of impoverished parents. No
of
one.
course.
There's no
100%.
one alive that deserves it more. The impoverished
absolutely-
parents.
you're right, and we need to-
Let's assume that they don't have a disability. Even if they have an addiction, though they could go to treatment. Although it would be really hard. Okay, it's definitely easier than sending a fucking 3-year-old to work to pay for their own income to buy food. No one needs it more than the children of impoverished parents. So when obviously we see systems of government benefit around this country offering increased amounts of government assistance for impoverished families that have more children, you and me should both totally be on board with it because no one needs it more than those impoverished children.
No, 100%. And I want to help those impoverished children. But do you think
Thank you for
somebody who's
conceding.
who's making less than $40,000 a year, should they be having more than 4 or 5 children? Do you think that is correct for their child? Is that ethical for the child?
The question of the morality of a poor family having multiple children is completely irrelevant to if they do have children, should we ensure those children don't starve?
Of course, and we don't want them to starve. And once in this
If
world,
you
you're
admit
right, we
that
do
those
need to do
two
that. I
things
agree.
are absolutely irrelevant, okay, well then don't bring up the morality of a poor family having multiple children in a conversation about, well, if they do have multiple children, regardless if it's right or wrong, are we going to ensure that those children don't starve by giving them adequate food assistance?
So you're saying two things can't be right at once. We can't say, hey, if you cannot afford another child, you probably shouldn't have that. But if you do, the government is here to help you, and that is correct. We should have these social safety nets. I'm in complete agreement with you. I just believe we need to clean them up a lot more. And that's it. That's simply my point.
Okay, but like, how are we cleaning up these social safety nets? By ensuring that 60-year-olds who aren't working no longer have access to food stamps, and by cutting it $156 billion under the big beautiful bill. That doesn't clean up shit, dude. Like, if we genuinely want to clean up like a system of like food stamps, for instance, like the one little area that I think we could clean it up is ensuring that once you hit the maximum income allotted to receive food stamps, that you're not cut off with the next dollar you make, and that we should wean people off of the services. So when you're like $1 above the maximum cap, you now all of a sudden receive maybe 95% of the benefits that you did when you were below the cap. When you're $1,000 above the net maximum cap, you only receive 50% of the benefits. When you're 2,000, 30. When you're 5,000, 10. Oh, but then when you're making $6,000 above the cap, which is the amount of money that the average person would spend per year on food, roughly, then all of a sudden you don't receive the benefits anymore. That would be a really good policy-oriented solution to help with the little small issue with food stamps that could possibly incentivize people to stay below that income threshold because it's what will keep them alive. Not just baselessly cutting off, millions of Americans, including children across this country, because we want more money to fund the rich and elite.
That's actually a great, I've never heard that before, so that's actually a very interesting solution. Do you know if that's been proposed anywhere, or is that kind of like off your dome? Is that your plan?
That's just my plan. I haven't seen it.
I like that. No, dude, that's a great, and to me, again, cleaning up the social safety nets. I think you were calling me a social democrat. I think to you, wouldn't that make you a little bit more right-leaning, just wanting to clean up our social safety nets and guarantee it's being used the correct way, and then we don't have to keep raising taxes, especially in cities like Chicago and New York?
No, because that solution that you just called phenomenal is an expansion to our social safety nets.
So again, but an expansion to get rid of corruption.
That is an expansion
agree.
to social safety nets.
But I think anybody in the right wing wants to help people who are poor. They want to help those.
If you want to,
people on the right don't just not want to help people. They want to do it in a correct way. And I think what you just said is the correct way to help people. And any right-leaning person who's rightly thinking and actually cohesive, again, like you deal with a lot of idiots, but people who think rightly think
with expanding social safety nets.
Of course, right? but again, and the way you just said was completely correct, and I think that was fantastic. That was a fantastic policy, and I disagree with the person who said you shouldn't run for positions in politics. I think you'd be fantastic. Again, the way you can think and formulate yourself, that was a fantastic policy, dude. I mean, come on. I totally agree with that, and I think anybody on the right side would agree with that.
Well,
so again,
let's see if you could agree with another fantastic policy to reduce poverty in this country. Could I tell you what that is?
I'm excited. Let me hear it.
A protection for every woman and girl's access to abortion in all 50 states. The leading driver of poverty in women is motherhood. And when we evaluate the socioeconomic standards of areas with pro-life legislation, and we compare them to the socioeconomic standards of areas with pro-choice legislation, we see higher levels of unemployment, we see lower levels of education, higher levels of poverty, lower average incomes, and lower qualities of lives, because now people are dropping out of school to become a mother that they don't want to be because the pregnancy was accidental. Now we see people dropping out of work to maintain, like 6 months of a little bit of pregnancy and a little bit of healing from pregnancy. We see the fathers too dropping out of work, and now no one has a fucking job, and they're relying fully on the government or on the little savings they have plus debt because the husband needs to help take care of the wife who just had her fucking body cut open. Like, clearly, I think the one really simple thing that we could do here to ensure that we have a lower total amount of people relying depend on social safety nets and less poverty as a whole as a country is to ensure that every woman and girl in the country has access to abortion.
I do agree with that. I've always had a trouble with the abortion argument, like going on to the pro-life side, simply because of all the points you had just referenced. My family also comes from a medical background, and the stories my mother has said, again, she has dealt with people who have dealt with complications with pregnancy, and she has talked about the lives that have been saved from abortions as well. So that's another interesting point. So I totally agree with you on that. But I think my only caveat with the abortion debate is I kind of think that it should be in the hands of the states to decide whether or not abortion is allowed in their state and to what level that is allowed. I just want to know, what is your point of view on that? Do you think that we should, like, again, Roe v. Wade, we should have it on a federal mandate? It has to be allowed in your state. And that kind of allows for situations like we're in states like Alabama, there's only one abortion clinic per 900 miles, incredibly underfunded. And it's essentially the same thing as having almost no abortion clinics.
Well,
so what do you think about that?
You made this whole conversation about economics and how you want to reduce poverty. So I'm going to give my response strictly in reference to economics. We should not leave it up to the state, because why would we allow red states to willingly put more people in poverty and make more people dependent on welfare?
No,
why would
100%.
we ever give that ability to a state? We should ensure
So do you
that
think
a state
we should,
doesn't have the
if we
ability
do,
to force more people into poverty and make more people dependent on systems of social benefit.
So how should we mandate that per state if we do, again, we make it a federal mandate to allow abortion? Should it be X amount of clinics per people, like within a certain amount of miles? So again, like if there's a more dense, like again, like a city like Georgia or Atlanta, would we have more abortion clinics there? Or again, is that up to the state to decide how many abortion clinics are in Atlanta versus in the rural countryside?
Well, I think that we should just allow the free market to do its thing, and if Planned Parenthood sees an opportunity in the market, then Planned Parenthood should be able to move in regardless of what the state says.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's a great... Dean, I think we agree on a lot of things. I think you'd be surprised. I think the right wing has a home for you over here. You sound like a pretty pro-capitalist guy. Come on.
No, what I'm doing...
The free markets? Did I hear you say free markets?
What I'm doing is I'm framing very progressive issues in a very pro-capitalist way that is going to be attractive to you as a economic podcaster that just started a show to talk about the market and thinks he supports Trump. But because listen, here's what I've seen. I've seen that more progressive people like Zoran Mamdani or even Bernie Sanders, just on a policy level, are legitimately more popular to the right than establishment Democrats that either have slightly different policy or aren't good as explaining how their policy is good to, and beneficial to the average American, right? Like straight up, I think that a centrist or a Republican would have an easier time endorsing somebody like Zoran Mamdani that's always talking about affordability, that's always talking about getting people out of poverty, that's always talking about, therefore, less people being dependent on social safety nets because they no longer fucking need them, because now we're increasing economic mobility by increasing wages and ensuring that more people are jump padded out of poverty, than like an establishment Democrat like Gavin Newsom, that maybe talks about some social issues sometimes and pushes for reductions and homelessness with policy, but then just kind of ignores it the next day on Twitter and attacks Trump. Okay, my point here is that the progressive worldview is clearly the way to go. And I also want to make a point here. The second point I want to make is that this whole time we've been having a back and forth debate about our personal opinions. But we're not really supposed to be debating our personal opinions. We're supposed to be debating if Donald Trump is a good president. Me describing to you what I think the solution is to food stamps is completely irrelevant to if what Donald Trump has done to food stamps is ultimately beneficial to the country or not. Now, I want to talk about that, but I do want to take a moment to thank a couple donors. Is it all right if I
take your time
to do that? Mean Bean, thank you for the $10 over on Super Chat. I appreciate you. Show some love to Mean Bean down below for the 10. They say, saying that we shouldn't be incentivizing people to have more children that they can't afford, but also forcing them to have children they can't afford by banning abortion as wild as fuck. So true, Mean Bean. I was honestly expecting this guy to clearly take that route and to be pro-life, but no, he's actually endorsing federal protections to access to abortion. I think this guy's a lot more progressive than he knows he is, because then after he endorsed federal protections for every woman and girl's access to abortion, he then turned around and said, Dean, I think you're more to the right. He's genuinely convinced that endorsing access of women's endorsing protections of women's access to abortion is like a right-leaning view, which is like crazy because clearly it's not. Then Siri, thank you so much for the $20 donation over on YouTube Super Chat as well. I want to get 200 Siri W's down below. Thank you. Who says, with caller talking like this, he's absolutely better being supportive of women's reproductive rights. And he was. Thank you for the $20. B, thank you so much for the $20 as well over on Super Chat. Thank you, B. B with the $20. Thank you so much. It's social worker here. Guest is literally arguing for eugenics. That's what starving poor kids to punish their parents is. The kids usually suffer more than the grown-ups. Please point that out when he comes up again. Well, B, I think that you sent that in a while ago, and I actually ended up making that point, then he ended up conceding to it. Lord T, thank you for the $10 as well, who says that the caller's focused on the wrong extreme. We should be focused on the top 1%. I absolutely agree too. And I think that more people need to open up their eyes to that fact, Lord T. Space Age, thank you for the $10, who says if you want people to stop having kids, they can afford it. Let people have abortions. God damn it. So commonsensical. Lana with a 10 says, don't feed the existing children to make sure they don't have more, right? That's essentially what he was arguing at the beginning. Titan, thank you so much for the $10 as well. I appreciate you so much for that love, Titan. And then Amber, thank you for the $20, who says, I was on ABT for 3 years while going through a divorce. 3 kids at the time. I only bought healthy food. Good shit, Amber. And I'm happy to hear that it sounds like you're no longer on it, which means the system worked for you. Thank you for the $20. Let's get 200 Amber W's down below. And then Nikki, thank you so much for the $20 as well, who says, I wish more people today with platforms like yours use their brains like you do. Keep on doing good work and making people think. Education and communication are struggling right now, and we need more folks like you. XOXO. Nikki, thank you so much for the kind words. I'm so grateful for you. Show some love to Nikki down below for the $20. And then Ray with the 10 says, hey, Dean, been listening to you for 2 months now. You're awesome. Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you so much. We're all caught up over on Super Chat. Guys, please, down below in that chat, show some massive love to all of those in which I've supported over on Super Chat. I'm so very grateful. On Venmo, thank you so much, Marie, for the $10. Thank you, Marie. Show some love to Marie. Megan, thank you for the $10 as well. Who says, as a young widowed mom, this money was a literal lifesaver. This dude in his privilege needs to be shut down hard. Who's he to decide who gets assistance? Thank you for standing up for people that need it the most. Thank you, Megan. And I could not agree more. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Show some love to Megan. And then Abby, ABI, thank you for the $25 donation. Thank you, Abby. Show some love to Abby, who says, here's some daily Dean and cheese for you. That's funny. I think the quote-unquote hot food that he's blathering on is in reference to prepared foods. For example, a Starbucks coffee purchase at a location instead of a grocery store. Probably. Thank you for the $25, Abby. Then Bethany with the 10. I appreciate you. Arisha, thank you for the $10 as well. She says, thank you for doing all that you do to change Trump supporters' minds. I try my best. Christian, thank you for the $10. Andrea with the $10, who says, Dean, thank you for what you do. Thank you, Andrea. And then Joseph, thank you so much for the $100 donation on Venmo. I want to see 1,000 Joseph W's. That is fucking outrageous, dude. I'm so very grateful for you. That is a shit ton of money. I'm so very grateful. Holy cow. Dude, insane. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph with 100. Insane. Says, what you do is worth every cent. Your flawless use of logic is beyond words. Best to you, your girlfriend, and Momo. Thank you. Dude, that is just, I'm like, no, not a bone in my body deserves that. From the bottom of my heart to you, man. Thank you so much for supporting me and what we do here. Same thing to Amber. This came in right before Joseph's. Thank you for the $50 donation on Venmo. Thank you, Amber. Amber with the 50 says, this is for the lady in the chat that keeps begging people not to donate to you. I think I saw her earlier. She was just like spamming, don't donate to Dean, don't donate to Dean. But Amber, that's also very kind of you. Thank you, Joseph and Amber, for the incredibly kind donations. Holy cow. On PayPal, Jules, thank you for the 5. Susan with the 10, who says you should have a second channel called Debate 101 to teach people how to debate. That's actually something I've been considering. Christina and then Ross, thank you both for the 5. Then Anne, thank you for the $20, who says this wannabe MAGA mouthpiece is running with quote-unquote welfare creams in 2026. Lil bro's missing a few decades of conservative software updates. I know, yeah. For real. I mean, yeah, I thought that that phrase was cycled out in the 90s. Thank you so much for the $20, Anne. And you actually sent another $20, and thank you so much for the love, who says, I retract my last comment. This man is 1 semester of undergrad away from being a full-blown liberal. Yeah, we've definitely heard some very contradictory things from him on the live, but thank you for another $20, and let's get 400 NWs down below in the comment section. And then one last one from here, from Dee Dee. Thank you for the $15, who says, Caller thinks people are having more kids just to get food stamps. What? Yeah, that view is self-defeating. It legitimately doesn't make any sense. So first and foremost, you understand that, you know, the kids that you're going to have to eat food. So you're going to spend the food stamps on them. And then second of all, who the hell would go through 9 months of pregnancy and then the trauma and labor associated with childbirth and then 18 plus years of being a parent, which comes along with an average obligation of $300,000 of expenditure to get an additional couple $100 of food stamps, that it is actually outweighed by, you know, the schooling expenses, the health expenses, the clothing expenses, you know, the extracurricular expenses. It's absurd. And then this is the very last one, I swear. This just came in from Renee over on YouTube, like right now, who sent a $100 super chat. That is RENANE, sorry. Thank you so very much, Renee, for the $100. Who says, just want to thank you for what you do as a VOD watcher. Also, thank you for shouting us out at the beginning of the stream. You know I always do, Renee. Thank you so much for the love and support. And it's a pleasure to finally meet another VOD watcher. Thank you so much for that love and support. Show some massive love to all of our donors. If you're watching and you want to support me or the stream, you can buy my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio on TikTok, the message on YouTube, and right there, Dean Withers without the E. It's a really good way to get a message or a question across. Appreciate you guys so much for the continued love. You guys are awesome. Now, Tommy, I want to go ahead and try to pick up where we left off. I want to try to convert you to a full-blown lib. Is there anything that Trump would do that would make you stop supporting him as president?
Honestly, I will say with the lobbying right now, the fact that I think everybody knows this kind of with the Iran war, it's pretty obvious that he's controlled by a certain lobby. The fact that he hasn't really said anything about this, I think he's already lost most Trump supporters. I think he's lost me. But I guess I wanted to ask you a question, Dean. Are you a socialist? Would you consider yourself a socialist and against capitalism?
No, I'm a social democrat, which just means that I think the most benevolent means of economic management would be an allowance of the privatized ownership of the means of production, but with very, very strong social safety nets and regulatory guidelines. I think that we should try to model Scandinavian countries that report the highest qualities of life. And honestly, this has a lot to do with just the implementation of the programs. Just pragmatically speaking, okay, when we have tried to implement, communism or socialism in the past, not saying that we've ever gotten there. Okay, so I acknowledge and I respect that. I'm not saying that communism is bad because the USSR was communist and they sucked. No, they weren't actually communist. Okay. But it's just been ineffective in actually achieving that in-state goal of the liberation of the proletariat, complete equality in all senses of that word, the expulsion of the existence of a state, money, and castes in any sense of what a caste would be. Meanwhile, the pragmatic implementation of social democracy has been very effective in different Scandinavian countries. But let me ask you a question here. Wait, I actually don't know if I have a question for you. I'm just kind of now comprehending the last thing you said. You said that Trump has lost your support, so you're not a Trump supporter?
I wouldn't say entirely. I would just say I supported Trump in the last election mainly because I was against Kamala's want to start taxing unrealized gains in the stock market. I'm not sure how you feel about that. Well, then I guess I know she had at one point that was a point of hers, correct?
No, it wasn't. I thought it was too. That was very effective conservative propaganda.
Interesting.
But even I was under the premise that that's what she thought. And I think it rooted from Mark Cuban doing an interview and saying that was a policy of hers that had been shared with him, but he was just confused. In all reality, that was something that Biden, not Kamala Harris, considered while he was president, but never actually ended up doing. And then Kamala Harris never touched it.
So again, my biggest contention with the Biden administration, something that I thought the worst thing they did was at the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, they went in and they seized Russia's reserves, and that set the precedent for every other country in the world that if you are deemed a political threat from America, that your United States dollars reserves that you use to buy oil, essentially we can seize that at any point. And that's why we've seen so many countries now starting to buy gold. U.S. Treasury bonds are no longer the number one asset held by central banks in the world. It is now gold. And on top of that, as we know, something that I think is very interesting is Saudi Arabia. In 2020, they were selling 4% of their barrels of oil. The total amount of barrels of oil sold globally, only 4% were sold in non-United States dollars. Now that number is 20%. So one out of every 5 barrels are sold in Chinese currency or either Bitcoin or non-United States dollars. And I think that is probably the most pressing issue that America is facing right now. And it's mainly because the Biden administration went in and seized these Russian reserves. And I don't see the purpose for it. I only see, and the real issue why I don't see the purpose is because Russia has been able to survive. They've proved that they can go essentially independent from America, and they set the precedent for China now that they can do the same thing. And I think that's why we have this big tariff war now coming from Trump as well, because we now know that China is going to become independent from America as fast as they can because Russia already did it.
Okay, so give a source that Biden seized Russia's reserves prior to their war. Sorry, prior to their ethnic cleansing in Ukraine.
No, it was at the beginning of the war in 2021. This is completely. I can pull it up right now. Seizing Russian reserves. They seized every single dollar. They froze it. Russia cannot buy any single oil or any dollar with United States dollars that they held. They cannot buy any oil with it. Hold on, I'm pulling up the source right now. So according to Brookings, right here. Sorry, I'm having my. Do you have an AI service? Sorry, not to. I'm assuming you have an AI that's helping you with finding the sources right off the bat.
No, I don't really use AI.
Okay. Me either. But yes, Brookings, why do the U.S. and its allies want to seize Russian reserves? And it ended up happening. That was the report before. And then I'm trying to see. Yeah, and then right here, according to from Duke.edu, seizing Russian reserves, the total amount we seized or we froze about $200 billion. And then France themselves also froze about $21 billion.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, freezing their holdings in central banks after they start an ethnic cleansing. So that's not unprecedented in the slightest. We did this in Afghanistan. Jimmy Carter did this in Iran. We've also froze the assets in Syria, Venezuela, and Iraq. This is nothing new. This is just simply something that the U.S. and allies have been doing forever. So if your claim is that in response to them doing this, like we're destabilizing like the use of the dollar on the global stage because of this, I'll just argue that you've been wrong, since this is something that we've been doing since the 70s. Now, the second thing I'll say is that this is actually a smart thing to do against the imperialists. I understand it's kind of hypocritical because we're quite the imperialist country ourselves. But regardless of that, I have no issue with freezing access to funds housed in central banks from other countries who want to ethnically cleanse people. Ultimately, it helps and aids and abets in reducing the power held by a sovereign nation to perpetuate an ethnic cleansing. And I think it is completely immoral to allow us to aid and abet in an ethnic cleansing. So please do not be disingenuous.
So my whole point with that, to your point, you're completely right. We have done it with past precedent. But with past precedent, why we've done it is because those countries were far smaller than Russia and not a world power. Russia is a world power. And cutting them off and freezing their assets and allowing them to go fully independent, like I said, has now proved to the entire world that major world powers do not need America. Countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, they're incredibly...
Russia's terrible. I mean, they're crumbling. The ruble is...
They're one of the
hyperinflation. Their GDP growth is going down, but still being propped up just because of all the money that they're spending on the invasion of Ukraine. Russia is a shit show right now. They're not thriving. They're barely surviving, and they're barely surviving economically speaking because of what they're spending themselves on the war in Ukraine.
So sure, you can say that, but that doesn't negate the fact that Russia for the last 10 years has been one of our biggest adversaries, not only in cyber hacking, but also with the fact that they've been meddling in almost all of our elections. That has been a point from not only your side, but also the Republican side, that Russians are constantly trying to get into American affairs because, to your point, yes, they are struggling, but also because America has tried to constantly cut them off from the entire world, especially with NATO, constantly putting missiles right on the border of Russia.
Why are you like low-key like a Russian sympathist? You're saying putting missiles right on the border. No. Do you mean opening up military bases in allied NATO countries right on Russia's border?
Why didn't we allow Russia into NATO then in 2000, 2001? Why did we refuse them? That would have ended all of this. We would have allowed Russia. Russia said that they would have joined NATO, again, under certain circumstances that could have been negotiated. But again, we had an opportunity there to get them under, and we refused.
I have absolutely zero knowledge about Russia even wanting to join NATO under certain circumstances in the early 2000s. But one
Vladimir
really
Putin in
good
2000.
idea, maybe one idea that we have is that we kind of have like a red line for letting dictators join NATO.
So no, again, that would be turning an enemy into an ally. We would be able to watch our closest ally not only under the authority of the United States, but the entire authority of NATO.
I don't think that we should be allies with dictators. I don't think that we should be allies with imperialists that ethnically cleanse.
But do you think we should control them and ensure that they cannot ethically cleanse anymore, and getting Russia into NATO?
Yes, and that's actually one of the really big reasons, why it's beneficial to freeze their assets in central banks to help take advantage of some lever of control to prevent them from continuing an ethnic cleansing.
But that only forced them to go more independent from America, be now upset at the Western world completely. And now they've also used BRICS. Again, that is Brazil. I'm not pro-Russia at all. I'm pro-stopping Russia. I'm pro-getting Russia into NATO to ensure that Vladimir Putin, while again, he is a completely
what were the conditions that Russia wanted to meet to join NATO? What were the conditions that Russia wanted NATO to meet?
Essentially, the condition was that Russia wasn't going to be paying as much as we wanted them to pay into because of their size. We wanted them to pay in more than other countries, and they refused. So again, that was kind of the whole point, was we wanted to get them to pay in more.
Show me that.
I can pull it up. It was, again, Putin wanted to negotiate on his own terms. It was essentially how much he wanted to give into it.
Sure, I don't think that we should give Putin the terms of NATO.
No, of course.
That sounds terrible.
But it was, again, over pricing points. But do you think that the benefit of having Russia now under NATO control would far outweigh the fact that, again, we might have to haggle on them with some sort of financial aspects? Like, hey, sure, maybe Russia isn't paying as much as we want them, but hey, now we can control them.
The reason why ultimately that fell through is because we were unwilling to give Putin control of NATO to meet his terms.
No, not control of NATO.
You're very much so equivocating. You're very much so equivocating in the argument that you're making, because you're saying, well, we didn't meet Putin's terms, therefore Russia didn't join NATO, but we should have allowed Russia to join NATO so then we could control Putin with our terms. That statement in itself is paradoxical, because in one sense you're suggesting the reason why it didn't happen is because he wanted control of his terms, but we should have let it happen so then we could have control with our terms. Well, the reason why it didn't happen is because we couldn't have control with our terms. So therefore your argument is self-refuting.
So no, again, the whole part was that. Sorry, wait. Can you repeat that last part? Sorry, I kind of blanked on what you just said.
Of course, you're saying that the reason why ultimately Russia didn't join NATO is because Putin wanted control in his terms to join, but then you're arguing the reason why we should have had Russia join NATO is so then we could control Putin with our terms. Well,
yes,
the argument is ultimately self-defeating for the reason being the reason why it fell through is because we couldn't control Putin without terms, because he wanted control with his terms.
So like what you said, again, a genocide is a much greater issue to worry about than, again, agreeing on every single little point that Putin wants to agree to. If we get Putin into NATO, then guess what? He can't commit those genocides, or he's going against the alliance now. And that, again, would be a reason for a full-fledged war. He's going against the alliance. That would give us real precedent then to go in and stop what you're just saying. So I'm completely agreeing with you that if we want to stop these genocides...
You know what else would be letting Ukraine join NATO? Who doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO?
But Ukraine, we offered Ukraine multiple times and they refused. And now then when they get in the war, then they want to join. No, we cannot just allow people to willy-nilly join NATO. If we give you the opportunity, you refuse it. You refused it. You can't join it then when you just need our help. You just can't just...
Okay. Okay. So then ultimately what you're saying here is that you actually don't support countries joining NATO that would be tantamount to preventing Russia to commit genocides or ethnic cleansing. So this is self-refuting in the sense because you just said that we should have allowed Russia to join NATO on their terms to prevent a genocide or ethnic cleansing, but now we shouldn't allow Ukraine to join NATO to prevent.
But again, you're saying genocide. That Ukraine wants to join on their own terms as well. So it's you're conflicting yourself saying that we shouldn't allow Russia on their own terms.
When did Ukraine refuse to join NATO?
We offered it to them multiple times before the war. I can pull this up now. Offered NATO before war. And again, the whole point with the Zelensky guy, I don't know if you know this, he's like the Mr. Rogers of Ukraine, right? He's like a bigger actor than Nixon. I mean, the dude's a joke. I'm not a big fan. I think we need to protect Ukraine 100%.
I'm not concerned with Zelensky. I'm concerned with the innocent Ukrainian people.
100%.
I think that there's way too many people on the right that will make it all about Zelensky. I don't honestly know anything about Zelensky beyond his appearances in the Oval Office. It's just something I haven't researched because, for the most part, I'm focused on like domestic affairs. But I don't really care about Zelensky because I care about the Ukrainian people.
But would you argue that Trump sometimes uses international affairs to try and levy and make his family more powerful? Yes or no? Yes. Right? Yes. So wouldn't Zelensky in the same way be able to do the same thing? And why wouldn't he do that?
All of the evidence in which I've seen of Zelensky doing that has just proved to be Russian misinformation. Like his wife buying like a $2 million Bugatti.
Okay. Wait, so did he buy? That did happen or did not happen?
No, it didn't happen. Like,
So
like
again, okay.
a vast majority of like all of the leveraging like Russia's invasion of Ukraine to make himself and his family more powerful and more wealthy is just straight up Russian misinformation.
But again, to that point, you don't think that Zelensky, again, now that we've agreed on the fact that political actors can use their roles for corruption and not the correct things, that him declining NATO and then using and trying to join
that.
NATO.
You haven't showed me that yet.
In spring 2022, the Istanbul talks. In April 2022, right here in February. Sorry, let me just read through what my AI is saying before I can say it. But essentially, February in 2022 was when we had offered it to them, and they said no.
Wait. Show me that.
On. Who is the war criminals pressure not to go to? No, they're not.
I find that very hard to believe because at that point in 2022, Ukraine applied for membership in September following Russia's invasion, and then B, even before their invasion, we kind of knew that that's something that Russia was planning, which is exactly why Kamala Harris was talking about expediting Ukraine's approval into NATO. Wait, I forgot about that. You're a fucking liar. And I know that you're a fucking liar because Kamala Harris spoke at the UN about expediting Ukraine into NATO prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The vice president of the most powerful member of NATO was talking about how we need to get Ukraine into NATO. You're a liar. So
No. Sorry.
I don't know why I didn't think. I don't know why I didn't think
ambassador-
about that until like literally right now.
We have, sorry, from look up Ukraine might drop NATO bid. We have it days before the invasion happened. Ukraine's own ambassador publicly signaled the willingness to drop the NATO bid. And this was before the war happened.
This sounds like Russian misinformation. The reason why this sounds like Russian misinformation is because it's not did drop a bid to join NATO. They still upheld the bid to want to join NATO. And you're arguing that it was a signal that they might drop in the future. So, like, typically, if you're going to tell me that he quote-unquote signaled that they may drop the bid to join NATO in the future, this is likely Russian misinformation. And if it's not misinformation, then maybe the signal was granted as a last attempt to try to prevent a Russian fucking invasion. Okay?
No,
because
totally,
Russia's been saying forever that they do not want Ukraine to join NATO. Conservatives have been saying forever that the reason why Russia invaded Ukraine was to prevent them from joining NATO. So if this was a signal, then it was a strategic one to not drop the bid to join NATO, because that's what they want to do. That's why the headline doesn't read, they did drop the bid, but rather just signaled it while still upholding the bid to maybe prevent a Russian invasion as a last-ditch effort. But regardless, this is a different claim than the one that you made, because you claimed that we formally extended them an invite to join NATO and they declined. That is not the headline. That is likely false that you're reading off. So can you admit that you were wrong?
If that's the case, I guess we're saying the ambassador did the public willingness to drop it. If that is not confirmed, then I can't.
Right, and that's not even.
But you're right.
So dropping a bid to join NATO, that's not even refusing an invite to join NATO. That's dropping a bid asking for an invite to join NATO.
So again, that's them.
But that's not even what
you're
happened.
Right, yes,
but that's not even what happened because they never dropped the bid.
So I guess to that point, then, would that precedent of America coming in and seizing Russia's assets and to try and clean up this war,
I need you to concede on that point before we go back to anything else. I need you to concede.
I mean, what do you want me to concede on that? The fact that it's possibly fake news,
that you were just like straight up like propagating Russian misinformation when you said that Ukraine refused an invite to join NATO. Like just straight up, that is very harmful Russian misinformation.
If I'm propagating, if again, we had also said that Kamala, we both thought at one point that she was going to have unrealized gains be taxed. Again, it's just sometimes misinformation and the wrong thing. Again, we both understand. We see a lot of things.
I'm acknowledging
I'll
that this is
concede
something
it the same way you would concede that. No, 100%. I agree. I'll concede that same way.
Okay, so I mean, you know what? You've been good faith. You've been good faith. So I won't tell you that a concession is when you change your mind on the principle which you've previously argued to be true. I never argued that it was true. Kamala Harris ran on the policy to tax unrealized capital gains. They actually just simply corrected you. Therefore, I didn't concede to anything. But I do appreciate you for conceding on the fact that it was misinformation when you attempted to.
I appreciate you proving me wrong. Thank you.
Refused an invite to join NATO. All right, we've talked about the economy. We've talked about geopolitical affairs overseas. If the election was held tomorrow between Trump and Kamala Harris, who would you vote for?
I would have to go Trump simply because, again, with Kamala, she didn't give one press interview. I couldn't have told you. I don't think many Americans could tell you one main policy of Kamala. Again, you are a political debater. You probably could. But the average American could not tell me one Kamala policy compared to probably a dozen Trump policies they knew. And that's my only issue, is she hid from the American people.
Yeah, funny enough, I actually don't think that she hid from the American people at all. I think that was Biden's fault. I think it's Biden's
Interesting.
fault that the average American probably
I
couldn't tell you too much about her policy when she was running. Can I tell you why?
Yeah, I'd like to hear it, because that's a good angle. I
Because
appreciate
Biden
that, yeah.
dropped out, giving her 120 days to run. Okay, listen, I'm not going to be this like Democratic show. That's fucked.
But the question was Kamala versus Trump.
Just allow me to
Kamala
finish speaking.
versus Trump.
Just allow me to finish speaking here real quick. That was fucked. That was fucked up of Biden to run on being a one-term policy, then to announce a bid for re-election, and then to formally drop that bid 120 days before the election. That put Kamala Harris into one of the most difficult positions anybody who ever running for president has been in. 120 days, not just to start on the campaign trail, but to build a campaign, build an agenda, make policy, announce the campaign, then hop on the campaign trail. This has nothing to do with Kamala Harris not wanting to be in front of the camera. This has nothing to do with Kamala Harris not trying to do outreach with her policy. I mean, she hit on nearly everyone in the debate with Trump, and KamalaHarris.org was just literally a book of all of her policies, like straight up. So that argument that you made that Kamala Harris was hiding and didn't tell anybody about her policies was false. She was screaming and shouting about her policies all day long. She just didn't have enough time to ensure that that message reached the average American. Now, the second thing that I'll bring up here, I want to ask you a question, okay? Because you seem like you've been pretty good faith so far in the debate. We've honestly had much more nuanced conversation than I clearly do with the average guest. That's been refreshing. Okay?
It's been nice.
That's been refreshing. But here's my question. If Donald Trump was guilty of sexual violence,
he of course is.
Would you
I know you're going
support him as president?
So again, my whole issue with the Epstein files is, of course, I do not want to support a president who is going to be in those files, and I think it's really hard for anybody to argue with the sane mind that Trump isn't affiliated with Epstein in some sort of way. So of course, on that basis, no, I do not support Trump. But to your point, what you just said is Kamala essentially to the average American didn't know what Kamala was campaigning on. Do you think that we should elect a president that the average American does not know what they're campaigning on and what they're going to do for the American person?
I think that we should elect a president that's going to be better off for the American people, not a lunatic who tried to coup our government into democracy, raped a woman, boasted about sexual exploitation, called Democrats terrorists, called for their execution, on top of killing children in Iran and defending the murder of American citizens.
This is a completely off-topic question, if you mind me asking. That school bombing, what did you feel about that misinformation campaign from the Trump administration right off the bat? That it was a Iranian missile gone rogue? How did you feel about that?
Just like another example of Trump line, which is the reason why you shouldn't support him. But you never answered my question. If you knew for certain that Donald Trump had engaged in sexual violence, would you still support him as president?
Well, I just said that we for sure do. If you have a sane mind, you know he was absolutely engaged in some sort of sexual violence. No, the answer I said is I do not support Trump. But again, in the question that you asked me was in just a terms of Trump and Kamala before the Epstein files were released, do I support Trump or Kamala? And my point was because Kamala...
You could have gone on KamalaHarris.org and read all of her policies. Like,
but again, to that whole...
But again, you could have gone on KamalaHarris.org and read all of her policies. But again, you could have watched her debate with Donald Trump where she went through all of her policies. But again, she definitely gave you all of the means necessary to figure out who she was and what she was running on. You just didn't do the research. Okay, the reason why her policies didn't reach so many Americans is because so many Americans didn't do the research. And I'm not going to argue that it is the burden of a presidential nominee running against a madman lunatic who in a week and a half is praised in a law, threatening the Pope, threatening to genocide 90 million people on top of claiming to be Jesus Christ, okay, to ensure that Americans who don't want to do the research do the research. That's not a negative reflection on her. That's a negative reflection on you for not realizing that the stakes were high and that the election was serious.
Okay, yeah, no, I totally agree with that. But I think Kamala, though, on an economic standard also was just a not great... Kamala, sorry, was just not a great candidate. I think we also know Larry Summers with her America Rescue Plan. I think this was something that a lot of people on the Republican side also brought up, was that we did not know the kind of inflationary pressures and kind of what was going to happen with inflation with her plans, because there was no real cutout, essentially, way that we were going to get this spending that wasn't just printing money. So what do you think about that? The Democratic plan was to print a lot of money if she were to get in office, and that's probably not the best thing for the average American person.
Oh, yeah, well, what I'd argue here is that if you care about expenditure and printing money increases the M2 money supply, you should fucking hate Trump. Not only did he spend twice as much as the Biden-Harris administration in his first 4 years, but in the first year of his second term, he spent twice as much as the Biden-Harris administration did in 4 once again. He is the largest spender that we've had in modern American history. He's a complete nut. And quite frankly, we would have been much better off with Kamala Harris to do with the debt and to do with expenditure. And that's a fact. I mean, just evaluating their economic policy. She ran on policy that cost us over the course of the next 10 years $2.2 trillion. But then she also ran on ways that we're going to get that paid for by granting our government a greater renegotiating ability with private pharmaceutical companies to then make those costs less, to then save us a projected $500 billion over the course of the next 10 years. She ran on a 3% increase in the corporate tax rate, which according to the Treasury would save us $1.2 trillion over the course of the next 10 years. Now all of a sudden we're at $1.7 trillion in expenditure. I don't know where the rest of the money would have come from, if I'm being honest, but now we've reduced the cost of her economic policy down to a net expenditure of $500 billion compared to the $5 trillion from Donald Trump's economic policy on its own. Do not make a point that the rapist who's boasted about sexual exploitation, who's best friends with Epstein, who threatened to genocide 90 million people and call him Jesus Christ, is a better president because of expenditure when he wants to spend significantly more than Kamala Harris proposed.
No, and again, I'm agreeing with you on all the Epstein things. I hope you're not under the impression that I'm agreeing with Trump
on the expenditure thing.
So again, with the expenditure thing, the reason why I'm still going to be supporting Trump, because he had the plan, the economic plan with the tariff war. Again, what we've seen with NVIDIA, we saw NVIDIA bring back $500 billion in investments back to America in long-term jobs. And again, that was within the first few weeks of these tariff plans. And we've also seen many other automotive companies now bringing back their factories to America, bringing back many more jobs. Kamala Harris's plan, while you're saying, again, might have that $500 billion, whatever you said, it's not long-term. That is a very, very short-term bonus, while Trump is creating jobs and creating actual industry in America that will last for decades. And again, I'm not saying he's creating it because necessarily he's just bringing it back. So I'm not going to give him all the credit because it's not really him doing everything. But again, at least we're seeing now that these countries have been brought to the table. We're seeing investment come back from NVIDIA where they could have just gone overseas.
Prove you wrong.
Okay. On what aspect? I said a lot. Sorry.
The investment aspect. You were wrong.
I said $500 billion from NVIDIA.
Oh, you actually might not be wrong about that, but you are wrong in the suggestion that overall the Trump administration is increasing investment into American manufacturing. So this is a graph of real private fixed investment in manufacturing in America. Now, what we see on this graph is very important. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. So here is the Biden-Harris administration. They come into office Q1 of 2021. They explode investment into American manufacturing. The largest
Are you sure that's not
explosion in recorded American history.
We're looking at right when COVID opens, right when that arrow is there. So I'm just a little bit confused on, again,
look at the investment prior to COVID. We were at $69 billion of quarterly investment into industries. If we want to account for the dip caused by COVID, all that we have to do is go to Q4 of 2021 when we're at $70 billion. Now, if we just look at the massive explosion after we account for the COVID dip, the investment into American manufacturing went fucking boom! But then what do we see so far under the Trump administration? Every single financial quarter, the investment has gone down. Every single one. Every single one. So when you sit here and you suggest to me that we need to make the rapist president because he's just so great for investment into American manufacturing, we have only seen investment into American manufacturing go down quarterly under a second term after a massive, shocking boom under Biden. And we know that you're wrong about this, not only because that is what the Center of Economic Analysis and the Bureau of Labor Statistics says, but then you followed up by saying, well, because Donald Trump is directing all of this investment into American manufacturing, manufacturers are creating jobs and so many are opening. Well, when we look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, quite frankly, last year in 2025, we had the most manufacturing bankruptcies since 2010 and the worst jobs report accounting for recession since 2003. So not only were you wrong on the first order claim that we have more investment, but you were wrong on your two second order claims that because we have more investment, we have more manufacturers that are staying in business, wrong bankruptcies, and we have more manufacturers creating more jobs, wrong worst jobs report since '03.
Okay, so again, it's the context of where that spending is going. All that spending you just listed, again, was before all that investing was coming back to American jobs. For example, all that spending that was done by companies like Hyundai, Samsung, LG was all going overseas. Now, all that spending is in America. For example, Hyundai, I believe it's a $5 billion steel plant they're opening in Louisiana. GE right now has a $3 billion a commitment to expand factories. Dude. Again, what I'm saying is you're showing me that number, but I'm saying all that investment went overseas. It didn't go to the American people, the American jobs.
No. This investment right here is strictly investment into domestic manufacturing on American soil.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say, again, to the point is what we're saying. What is the where are the long-term benefits that you have said?
Could you admit that you're wrong?
I'm not saying I'm wrong. Can you name me then at least one company then that has added one factory?
1 second. Why doesn't this data prove you wrong? You know, like think about it this way.
Because what I'm saying is all that money went overseas.
Because you continue to
domestic companies. Companies can be in America, and their operations and shell companies are not in America.
But this is specifically investments into the operations of American companies. Okay, on
so
American
again, an
soil.
Operations investment, you're classifying, again, what is that classifying? Are you also classifying administration costs? Because you're not classifying what that is being spent on, because that is all being spent on American, again, companies that are registered in America, domestic companies that, again, are then using their labor. They're not doing the labor themselves. They are essentially buying the labor overseas. And this money, all this investment that you're saying is in domestic America, it all went overseas. We saw none of these jobs being built.
Because this is strictly on manufacturing structures. Dude, listen, look at non-residential structures, manufacturing. This is strictly investment into building manufacturing facilities on American soil.
So
this is not overall investment into broadly American companies that could possibly be outsourcing their labor overseas or outsourcing their manufacturing overseas. No, this is very specifically investment into the manufacturing facilities that are being built on American soil. This, unfortunately, proves you wrong. There's no way around it. You continue to try to make a way around it, but all the ways around the data are not represented by the data, because the data is just representing what's being invested into building manufacturing structures and facilities on American soil.
So two things, to your point, again, over that time, inflation has been incredible. So that amount of spending is also incredibly inflated. And to that point,
read this word.
Real, I understand that. Okay.
So it accounts for inflation. Wrong again.
So then again, going off of that, what I'm saying is, where are the jobs that are going overseas? How is that bringing these jobs back? And again, not losing these jobs to America, because what we've seen with these Trump tariffs is all these companies now pledging all future job creation is in America. Again, everything you're saying is short term. Again, these short term structures that are all being depreciated by the same capitalist companies that you say are killing the American working class. But again,
did you just ask how building manufacturing facilities in America brings jobs back? Very simple question. Because once they build a manufacturing facility, they need more people to work. They need the people to work and run the manufacturing facilities, right?
I'm sorry. What is your point? That again, because Trump brought it
because
back?
you asked me how all this data of massive investments under Biden with decreasing investments under Trump was bringing jobs back to America. Well, it's because they're building the manufacturing facilities in America. Manufacturing facilities don't run themselves. People run them. People get paid to run them. That's what we call a job. Therefore, it created jobs. Dude, maybe this is why under the Biden-Harris administration, we had 250-year historical low levels of unemployment. And maybe this is why, once again, in reference to the fact that this investment has only gone down every quarter under Trump, we now have the worst jobs report since 2003. Like, not only does the data on the graph I keep on showing you proving you wrong, but the outcomes do too. You're like, oh, well, because Donald Trump is bringing all this investment back into America, he's creating all these jobs and he's creating all these manufacturers. Well, actually, dude, worst jobs report since 03. We created just 179,000 jobs last year when the average monthly job creation of Democrat presidents in 50 years has been over 200,000, and most manufacturing bankruptcies since the Great Recession. But all that data aside, we are just going to reduce it down to that graph that I continue to show you on the live stream. There's no way you could be right here because the graph says that there's less investment into building manufacturing plants on our soil. Now, you continue to attempt to debunk my argument here by rattling off random companies like NVIDIA, billions of dollars in investments, Hyundai, $500 billion plan in Minnesota, so on and so forth. Okay, well, I could actually account for that because when we look at the data on this graph, is it dropping from $151 billion of investment quarterly to zero? No, it's dropping from 151 to 148 to 145 to 142 to 136 to 126. Okay, so what does this mean? Still yet in Q4 of 2025, there was $126 billion worth of investment into building manufacturing plants on American soil. Maybe that's where the $5 billion investment from Hyundai is coming from. Maybe that's where the $500 billion investment over 10 years from NVIDIA is coming from. Maybe that's where all of the individual examples that you're giving is coming from. But ultimately, when we add up all of these individual examples that you're giving me of Trump incentivizing investment into American manufacturers, it's going down, 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 down compared to where it was at under Biden. Cope.
Yeah, no, and indeed, I appreciate you bringing those facts up. That's very interesting. I haven't, again, looked at it from that angle. But to your point, again, I'm trying to explain to you that all of that money, what you're saying, is into these real structures. Again, I'm agreeing with you, but in the long-term sense of what we just said, you again agreed that NVIDIA over 10 years now is bringing over $500 billion into American investment. I don't see how you're saying that's a negative for America.
I'm not saying that, listen, I'm not saying that the fact we had 126
So NVIDIA
billion, just listen to what I'm saying.
Automotive.
Listen to what I'm saying.
NVIDIA isn't automotive.
Just listen to what I'm saying.
Structures,
I'm not
so this graph
saying
isn't
that
relevant.
the fact that in Q4 of 2025, we had $126 billion worth of investment into American manufacturing is bad for our country. I'm saying the fact that in Q3 we had more, in Q2 we had more, in Q1 we had more, then in Q4 of the prior year we had more, then in Q3 of the prior year we had more. I'm saying that the fact that in every quarter before, this quarter was a higher level investment is what is bad because now investment's going down. I'm saying the fact that investment is going down is bad.
Okay, yes, and we obviously need to fix that, and I think that we're in agreement on that.
Okay, so you agree that Trump isn't fixing it, so you completely concede your economic argument.
Well, again, what I brought up with everything else that the economic argument is doing for what Trump is doing, again, what I said for Ford and GM, the commitment that they've been, again, Ford, $50 billion globally is now coming back to America.
I'm sorry, bro, you've been like rather more
all
intelligent.
done from tariffs.
Listen, you've been more intelligent than the average guest on my live up until like 10 minutes ago. I don't know what the fuck happened 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, you legit just like lost your brain. Like you must have dead ass 10 minutes ago. You opened up your fucking skull.
Well,
you took your brain
my
out.
main
You
point
put it on
was
the
the NVIDIA.
goal. Just let me finish speaking
part.
here. 10 minutes ago, you took the brain out of your head. You put it on the ground.
Yes, okay,
and you started
thank you.
fucking curb stomping it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I know that you're smart enough to understand what I'm saying. Donald Trump getting all of these companies to invest in American manufacturing only matters in consideration of all investment, we have more manufacturing and we have more investment. If Donald Trump is securing one $500 billion investment over the course of the next 10 years, but all of the other trillions of dollars of investment is going away because of his policy, then ultimately Trump is a bad president. Like, imagine this. You make $1,000 a month, and Donald Trump secures you an additional $100 a month because of his policy. You're arguing that's good. But then imagine that because of his policy, you also lost $500 of the original $1,000 you made. So now, in consideration of the total impact of Donald Trump's policy, you're only making $600 a month. So what we'd argue here is that even though he secured you an additional $100 because he lost you $500, and now you're making $600, which is less than the $1,000 you were making before him, his economic policy is failing you, right?
Well, then again, that's why the big beautiful bill, we had the tax
Can I
cuts
just
for
have
the
a
people.
yes or
There's
no,
no
please?
tax on. I'm sorry. Well, that was a very long question. I'm not sure what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll
Yes or
try
no
I'll try to reduce it down. Donald Trump
But no,
makes
but
you
I'm
an
saying,
additional
but would you
five.
agree then?
I'll reduce the question down to a really easy yes or no. If Donald Trump's economic policies made you an additional $500 per month, but lost you $5,000 per month, in consideration of all facts, would his policy be good for you?
Of course, that's not considering all facts because you're not bringing up the big beautiful bill tax cut. So I just feel like that is not a good faith argument.
Just
in
answer
that
the
sense.
fucking question, Tommy.
Well, I'm not answering that because that's not
Then
a
I'm
good
going to
faith
kick
argument.
you. It is a good faith argument because that's what I've been trying to show you is that you continue to say Trump good because he's securing all this domestic investment, but he's losing more domestic investment than he's securing. If he's losing more domestic investment than he's securing, then he's not good for domestic investment. Like in that question I asked you, if Donald Trump secures you an additional $500 a month, but loses you $5,000, literally, the analogous argument would be you arguing that Trump is good because he's securing you an additional $500, then me arguing that, well, Trump is bad because even though he's securing you an additional $500, in total, he's also losing you $5,000. It's easy. It's so easy. Overall, Donald Trump is making this country lose more investment than he's making it gain.
I think we'll have to agree to disagree, but Dean, thank you.
Listen, Tommy, you can't agree to disagree because that's what the Bureau of Labor Statistics proves. If Donald Trump was securing more domestic investment than he was losing, then this graph wouldn't be going down. In Q2 of 2024, we had $150 billion of quarterly investment into manufacturing. In Q3 of 2024, we had $151 billion of quarterly investment into American manufacturing. Q4, it went down. What happened in Q4? Trump won the election. In Q1 of 2025, it went down. What happened in Q1 of 2025? Trump was inaugurated and started passing his policies. In Q2, it went down. In Q3, it went down. In Q4, it went down. If he was bringing in more investment than he was losing, it wouldn't be going down. Yet you continue to argue that he's bringing in more than he's losing.
That's correct.
This is like, let me give you an analogy here. This is like somebody arguing that they are making more money than they are spending, even though their bank account balance is going down. Well, actually, your bank account balance cannot be going down if you are making more money than you are spending.
No, again, I'm saying I think we'll have to agree to disagree. Dean, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Dude, an hour and a half. Did I do good for my first stream? Can you at least give me that? Until the last 10 minutes?
No,
until the last 10 minutes?
Can't give it to you, Tommy. Can't give it to you, Tommy.
I appreciate it.
Because you're agreeing
Dean.
to disagree on something a third grader could understand. I don't know why you're doing this. Because you're clearly smarter than a third grader. You gave me one of the most nuanced debates prior to the last 15 minutes than anybody on my stream in the last month. You're clearly smart enough to understand that because graph go down, Donald Trump lose more investment than Donald Trump secure.
I guess I'll have to do more research to counteract your point because your graph is hard to beat. But I conceded it to you. No, I gave it to you. Again, you did prove me wrong on that, so I give it to you. But
okay,
thank you for letting me. Yeah, thank you for letting me yap for an hour and a half. I appreciate it.
Okay, take care. We're gonna move on to the next guest. dude, like, dude, that shit drives me up a fucking wall, man. That shit drives me up a fucking wall. Okay, yeah, let's go to move on to the next guest. Honestly, you guys don't really see me get to debate, the complexities of economic policy all the time. So maybe that's pretty cool. Until the last 15 minutes. So the last 15 minutes, he just went back to like the moronic state of existence of the average Trump supporter. Like if we just ignore the last 10 minutes, it was pretty good. Hi, welcome in. Do you support Trump?
It's like I'm just restless.
Okay, that guy's not here. Only hop inside of that queue if you guys happen to be a Trump supporter. Clearly we've been talking to the same guy for the last hour and a half, so I'd assume that there's a lot of people watching that don't necessarily know the rules. We're only looking to talk to people who are above the age of 18, American, and MAGA. Also, if you want to support me, if you want to support the stream, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio on TikTok. Pay message over on YouTube, and right there, Dean Withers without the E. Really good way to get a message across. Good way to ask a question, and it also supports what we do here. I mean, it keeps us being able to do it for 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. On Super Chat, thank you so much, Queen, for the $10. Who says Hyundai agreed to build the new plan on May 26, 2023 under Biden, not Trump. Based truth nuke. Absolute truth nuke. On Venmo, Katie, thank you for the $10. She says there used to be anomalies here and there, but the right will never win on the economy. Trump is a reverse Robin Hood, stealing from the poor and giving to the rich. Love you, say it back. Love you too, Katie. You're absolutely right about that. Joseph, thank you so much for the $75 donation on Venmo. I really appreciate you so much for that love, Joseph. You've been supporting me so much, man. Just know that I really fucking appreciate it. I want to see 750 Joseph W's for such an incredibly kind donation. I'm so very grateful for you, Joseph. Show some love to the goat in the chat who says, love your ability to shred brainwash idiots. That guy wasn't even a brainwash idiot until the last 10 minutes. I mean, I think he was brainwashed, but I'm not convinced that guy was an idiot. Thank you for the $75, Joseph, who says, this guy's an online presence about finance, really? Yeah, which is maybe why I was unwilling to concede, because he'd like fuck with his image. A lot of finance bros are clearly on the right. Just know that it's better to seek truth than seek a paycheck. All right, if that last guy is still listening. Thank you, Joseph. Welcome in, Jennifer. Do you support Trump?
No, but I actually wanted to jump in on a topic that you had discussed.
I'm so sorry, Jennifer. Today we are just looking to talk to Trump supporters, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Joseph actually sent another $50 on Venmo. This was 28 minutes ago. So, dude, not 75, $125, Joseph. Thank you, dude. That is
Thanks,
that is
Joseph. I
nuts.
appreciate that.
Yeah, shout out to Joseph, dude. Thank you so much. Who says, because he totally called you bae or babe, even being an uber gay follower of yours myself, I know not to go there. Well, I saw a couple people in the chat saying that he called me babe. Did he do that? I clearly, if he did it, it was accidental. Oh my God.
What's wrong, Deanie? What you looking at?
Dude. Philip. Holy shit. My friend, Mr. Philip, thank you so very much for the $500 donation on Venmo. I'm lost for words. Oh my
I want to see 5,000 thank you, Phillips, in the comments right now on
Dude,
TikTok and YouTube.
Who the fuck is this guy? Who the fuck is... Go on mute. Show some love to Philip. Dude. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. Man, that is like a quarter of my rent. No, that's more than a quarter of my rent. That's like a third of my rent. That's how much I spend on food in a month. Thank you. Genuinely. I don't deserve that. I will never be able to understand, like, what somebody could ever be led to believe to think that I am deserving of a $500 donation. Just know that I'm so grateful, man. Dude, show some love to Philip down below. Philip with the $500 says, great live today. I'm aligned with you, however, I'm also concerned about the desire for many new countries wanting to move off the dollar entirely. Philip, just know that I really appreciate you for the support. Thank you so much for saying that. You know, it's a great live today. Definitely more intriguing debates than the average. And I am so fucking grateful for you. I'm sorry. I'm lost for words if you can't tell. That just threw me off entirely. Show some fucking love to Philip for the $500 donation. I'm so very grateful. So very grateful.
Yo,
Philip,
thanks for the galaxy, bro.
Go back on mute. Oh wait, Philip is actually sending galaxies. Thank you, Philip. I appreciate you. And maybe this guy is helpful. Danielle, this is the last person I'd like to thank on Venmo for now. Thank you so much for the $50 donation on Venmo as well. Who says, thank you so much for talking to these very dense idiots. I appreciate you so much, Danielle. Show some love to Danielle and Philip. I'm sorry. I'm just like, wow. I'm stunned. I'm flabbergasted. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Philip. I mean, dude, holy crap. I don't deserve that. Thank you. Wow. Holy fuck.
You're damn right you don't deserve it. You are damn right you don't deserve it, bro.
Thank you.
Sorry, carry on.
Marianne, thank you for the $14 donation on PayPal. I appreciate you. This guy's weird. Thank you for the $14 donation on PayPal, Marianne. I appreciate you. Kamara, thank you for the 10, who says, I graduated in 2025 and we broke a record of the largest graduating class and we're 18 and can vote. And most of us don't like Trump, so next election he's going down. Fuck yeah, Kamara. Vote for Dems in the midterms. And then Hayden, thank you for the $1, and Monica, thank you so much for the $10. I appreciate you guys so much. If you want to support me or what we do, you can find the Venmo, PayPal, link tree in the bio on TikTok, pin message over on YouTube. I appreciate you guys for the love. We're going to go and hop into that next debate. I want to see W's and love for Philip for the next 10 minutes at least. Man, welcome into sport.
Yes, I do support Trump.
There's kids watching, bro. Go remove your second repost. Everybody in the chat is spamming second reposts. I mean, I definitely... Okay. I had to kick him. The second repost was some ass. Jiggling ass. And the only reason why I checked a second repost is because everybody in the comment section was spamming second reposts. So I'm also now led to believe that there's a bunch of minors watching that saw everybody in the chat spamming second reposts that then just got met with jiggling ass. That's not something we're going to be doing here. Feel free to come back after you remove that repost. Let's go to get that next guest loaded up into the box.
Bro, right, I'm in the shower. Bro, I'm in the shower. Get me out.
Jesus. Okay. You are out. Okay, wow.
Hey, how's it going, Mr. Withers?
Let me make sure you remember this. Did you remove the repost?
Yes, sir. Don't say good boy. Haha, if you say it, it's because I told you to say it. So be a bad boy and don't say it, Dean.
This guy sounds annoying. Let me verify that claim real quick.
Let's hurry up and get this debate on the road. I'll cook you real quick.
Okay, you did. Why did you have that reposted?
Because I don't know. It was a repost that I liked. That's why you repost stuff. Come on, use your brain.
Because you like the jiggling ass. Okay.
I do. Don't you like jiggling ass? Or do you like someone that's carved out of plywood? What do you like?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be engaging in a conversation with you about different body shapes, so on and so forth. But you know what I'll tell you, women don't like is a man without a brain. So that's clearly you. You're a Trump supporter. You know, we got the undesired over here talking about and projecting that onto others. But anyways, so you're a Trump supporter. How old are you?
Thank you, Gentle, for the gift. I really appreciate it. Sorry, carry on, Dean.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay, you clearly are British. Are you in America?
Yes, I am. I've been here for about 20 years now.
What state?
Idaho.
Idaho. What a random ass state. What's the capital of Idaho?
Boise.
Okay, I think you're right. What time is it?
7:37 p.m.
Idaho. Okay, what time zone are you in?
Mountain.
Gotta give it to you. All right.
Or you can even say Denver.
Only somebody in Mountain Standard Time would know Mountain Standard Time. Why do you support Trump?
He's a great guy. Very religious. Love the things that he's done. Although as of right now, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, gas prices are influenced because of him." Well, yeah, you can say that, but it's because we're going to war. So of course,
very religious.
Yes.
He's so religious he thinks he's God. right?
That you're conflating to that post in which he made, where he, just because he's in a white robe with red overalls, that meaning that he's God, he's not depicting himself to be Jesus. Actually, if you look at the Pope, the Vatican, they wear stuff like that. Archbishops as well. They also.
I have a question.
You go ahead.
Do popes heal people with light emitting from their hands?
Well, that's just a euphemism to say that he has a touch of God. That's what that means, and that's exactly what we read in the Bible as well.
Wait. So he's depicting himself to have the touch of God, wearing
the healing powers. Yes,
with the red robe.
Yes.
Do you know where this depiction of wearing the white garment with a red robe?
Yeah,
comes from?
white resembles purity, as you should probably know that, and red would probably resemble the blood of Christ, in which we all have inside of us, in which we go forth and prophesy His words. That's what we do as prophets,
and
then we heal people and bring them to Him.
With those two traits worn in combination with one another, purity and the blood of Christ, do you know where they come from?
Yes, from Christ, our Heavenly Father.
No. They actually come from 19th century depictions of Jesus Christ in Portuguese art history. So that's why when you will think of the most common depictions of Christ in modern day, it is Jesus Christ wearing those red and white robes. I could prove it to you. I just went on Google, I typed in Jesus Christ, and what is the most predominant example of clothing that we see here? We see Jesus in a white garment with a red robe. We see Jesus in a white garment with a red robe. We see Jesus with a white garment with a red heart, once again denoting that same schema. We see Jesus with a white garment and a red robe. We see Jesus in a white garment with a red and green robe. Okay, and we see Jesus in a white garment and a red robe. We see Jesus
he has
in
a
a
crown
white
on. The
garment
Queen's
and a
depicting him. The
red
King's
robe.
depicting
We
him.
see a Jesus in a white garment and a red robe. Okay, and the reason, once again, why we see Jesus in a white garment and a red robe so frequently within art depicting Jesus is because of 19th century Portuguese art depicting the white garment as purity and the red robe as the robe of Jesus Christ. Something else that I want to point out here is that because he is wearing the garments that are most notably used to depict Jesus Christ, while healing somebody with light emitting from his hands with a touch on the forehead, like Jesus does in Scripture, while angels ascend from the heavenly skies to watch over him while he does it. This is undeniably a depiction of Donald Trump as Jesus Christ.
Dean, just because it could be doesn't mean it is, okay? That's what you need to understand. I know you want to be right in your delusional thoughts of thinking, that's what it is, when that's really not the case. Like I said before, archbishops, they wear white and red. People and definitions do change over time. I mean, one that I disagree with is the whole gender talk and whatnot. That's one that I disagree with, how that definition has changed. Before it used to conflate with sex. At this point, yes, maybe I do somewhat agree that we don't conflate sex with gender, although trans women aren't women, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, as we're saying, things change over time, Dean. That picture is just him showing that he's a prophet, a disciple of Christ, and he has the healing power. In the Bible, it says that too, by the laying of our hands, we shall bless people. That's what it says. Come unto me, all you are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The prophets go out to prophesy. We evangelize, we preach the word of Christ, and we use his word in order to lay hands and heal people. That's exactly what that picture's depicting. So you trying to say that he's trying to have this whole God complex? No, it's not. It's a picture in which he posted that people like the leftists like you take out of proportion just to go ahead and have a talking point to find more reasons to hate Trump when there is really, really no reason to do that. Somebody in the comments just said it says love thy neighbor as well. How are you not loving your neighbor just by a damn picture? Come on now, fix up.
So your first argument, you said just because it could be doesn't mean it is. So I agree, just because something could be the case doesn't mean it is the case. Now, all the evidence we would need to know that it could be the case, this is a depiction of Jesus as Donald Trump as Jesus Christ, is to note the fact that it's not contradictory to suggest that this is a depiction of Donald Trump as Jesus Christ.
Yes, it is.
All of the... What's the contradiction?
That's the contradiction was what you're making. You're contradicting yourself and saying that it's Jesus Christ, and you're going back and say back in the day this has happened.
What's the contradiction of this being a depiction of Trump as Jesus?
The fact that you listen, Dean. The fact that you're saying
wait, you're already saying me. I would have nothing to do with the contradiction yielded.
Yeah, I'm saying you're contradicting yourself. I'm saying you're the contradiction.
Okay, so then that's not the claim that I made. The claim that I made is that it's not contradictory for that to be a depiction of Trump as Jesus. Do you agree?
Carry on saying what you're saying.
Do you agree that it's not contradictory that that could be a depiction of Trump as Jesus?
It could be. Correct. It could be.
Exactly. Right? And as you pointed out, just because it could be doesn't mean it is. And I agree with you. We're both now accepting that it could be Jesus because it's not contradictory for it to be Jesus. That doesn't mean it is. That's where all of the additional circumstantial evidence I gave you comes into play. The fact that the white garment and the red robe is a Portuguese art depiction of Jesus from the 19th century alongside the angels coming from the sky and healing people with his hands is what jumps the gap from it's logically possible it's Jesus, it could be Jesus, to it more reasonably would be than not the fact that this is a depiction of Trump as Jesus. Okay? And then everything else that you said there, the next thing that you said is that, well, sometimes archbishops inside of the Catholic Church will wear red robes.
Inside the Catholic, so they're not always Catholic, but anyway.
Okay, well, in the Catholic Church, that's reserved for criminals. Archbishops.
The Apostolic Church, they also have archbishops too.
You're interrupting me. I didn't interrupt you.
Sorry, I apologize, Dean.
So inside of the church, when a bishop, when a cardinal, when a priest, when a pope will wear white and red, it is with very formal requirements, such as a very specific, clean-cut, let's see here, slash that will go over their shoulders that is precisely 6 inches wide that is then met at their waist, or a top jacket with precisely 4 buttons in an off-red magenta tone. What you won't see is the depiction of a pope, a priest, an archbishop with this shitty white garment with the red cloth over shoulders. And the reason why is because, once again, in art history, we've always reserved that humble depiction of the messy, drapey, baggy white and red for somebody like Jesus Christ, not for the Pope, the priests, or the bishops. They are very formal and they're astute clothing that is very clean cut, well ironed, and fit to themselves. So I reject that this is a picture of a pope, a bishop, a priest, because it's not the clean-cut, ironed look that we would see from a pope, a bishop, or a priest. And we know this because earlier this year when Donald Trump was trolling the pope, and then Donald Trump depicted himself as being the pope in another AI image, okay, well, it wasn't with the Jesus clothes that are a little bit more raggy, once again, pulling from depictions of Jesus in 19th century Portuguese art history. It was, once again, the very clean-cut, crystal-clear, well-ironed apparel of the papacy that we see in the Vatican City today. So for all of these reasons, I just completely reject the notion that this could be a pope, that this could be a archbishop, that this could be anybody but Jesus Christ.
Well, see, Dean, the thing is that you're so hung up on it being Jesus Christ that you don't want to accept anything else. I mean, there could be things that I could say about your life that could say, oh, you were once this, but you've changed. People change, right? Of course, this doesn't mean anything towards a picture of Trump in the sense that he's changed, because there's nothing that he has to change. It's him in a picture showing himself as a prophet of Christ that is one that is able to heal people. We don't know that picture.
We've ruled out that claim with the explanations I've given, like the apparel depicted in 19th century depictions of Jesus, like the more raggedy. No, that's a fact of art history.
Right.
The more raggy, like baggy, dress cloth over the shoulders with the white
wait a minute. So answer me this.
With the healing powers from his hands and the angels in the sky. All of these reasons rule out, like the depiction of a priest or a modern day healer as a reasonable possibility of what Donald Trump is depicting himself as. And this is why, like, MAGA even caught on. MAGA was like calling on Donald Trump to take this picture off Truth Social, shitting on him on the internet, because it is clearly a depiction of Donald Trump as Jesus Christ, and your explanation is unreasonable Okay, for
No,
the
it's
reasons
not.
that I've
To
given.
you it is,
and
of
we
course,
all know.
yes.
No, to everybody, including MAGA, it is. Because of
So
the reasons that I'm just one of the people that could actually voice the reasons why your explanation is unreasonable. But we all agree, regardless if we could voice those reasons why or not, that it is unreasonable.
And if you're able to word something so that it makes sense, a lot of people start to believe you. But then my next question would be the fact of, why can't Trump depict himself as a prophet, but we have people that can change their gender and depict themselves as a man or woman that is opposite to the sex that they were born with?
I will happily have a conversation with you about gender identity as soon as you could concede that Donald Trump depicted himself as Jesus Christ.
No, he did
all
not.
of the reasons that I just gave you. And I know that you know you're losing the debate about that not being a depiction of Jesus Christ because you gave your reasons. You shot all your ammo. You wasted it. You went through, oh, it could be a priest. Oh, it could be an archbishop. Oh, it could be a healer. But then I took all of your reasons. I took all of your ammo and I shit on them. Oh, well, this is how Jesus is depicted in 19th century Portuguese art. This is the more raggedy, baggy look with the cloth draped over the shoulders on the unironed white garment that we see in the depictions of Jesus Christ, not the clean-cut look that we see from the popes, the bishops, and the priests. That is something that Donald Trump has previously used to depict himself in the very clean-cut look of the Pope in the Vatican. You went through, it could just be a healer according to Scripture. Okay, well, then we ruled that out as a reasonable possibility for all the reasons that I described. So you're out of arguments. That is not Donald Trump depicting himself as Jesus Christ. So now you want to pivot to talking about
No, I'm not
trans
pivoting.
people.
I'm just giving an example of something that I can then change and say, why isn't this an issue? But we look at the Trump depict himself as a prophet, and that's an issue. That's what I'm trying to get at.
So it's an issue for the president to depict himself not as a prophet of God, but as God, because that's Jesus Christ for all the reasons I've given. Because
that's what you think.
In accordance, that's what I've proven.
No, you might think you've proven it, Dean, but that
then
is
what are
only,
the counter arguments against any of the suggestions I made? Because
like
I'm not
I say,
hearing them.
Dean, like I say, a prophet can wear a white robe and lay hands and heal people. That's exactly what it says in the Bible.
Just because it could be doesn't mean it is, and we know it isn't because of all the reasons I gave. You were hinging on the logical possibility that this is not a depiction of Trump as Jesus Christ to argue it's not a depiction of Trump as Jesus Christ. We need to look at the different hypotheses of what this is an image that Donald Trump is depicting himself of, and then evaluate them for the evidence that exists to suggest the hypothesis is true. The first hypothesis is that this is Donald Trump depicting himself as Jesus Christ. The second hypothesis is that this is Donald Trump depicting himself as a prophet of God that is using healing powers. The reason why the first hypothesis is infinitely more likely to be the case than the second hypothesis is because of all the reasons that I gave you. You merely pointing out that your hypothesis is possibly true is not disputing all of the evidence I gave to demonstrate that my hypothesis is infinitely more likely to be true.
Okay, but then I could go ahead and then say, oh, in modern day depictions of prophets, we picture them wearing robes. Oh, in modern day depiction of prophets, we know that they have healing powers. What if he dressed up as a nurse and did the exact same thing?
Wait, prove your claim. I want you to show me a very popular modern day depiction of somebody that is not Jesus Christ wearing a white garment with a red robe over their shoulders while they are healing somebody with magical mystical powers with their hands as the angels watch from above. Show me.
Of course I'm not going to find exactly somebody with the light coming out their hands. Of course, I could AI image it, but then that's going to be, that's not truthful of me to do so.
Right, because the evidence I pointed you to were the most popular historical and modern day representations of Jesus Christ wearing the white garment with the red robe draped over his shoulders. And I was even able to point out the differences between the same color schematic being used by priests, popes, and bishops. This is why my hypothesis bears significantly more weight than yours, because your hypothesis, it hinges on the hypothesis having the possibility of being the case. My hypothesis hinges on all of the evidence to demonstrate not only that it's possibly the case, but that it is the case.
Nah, Dean, they both hinge on the possibility, and that is why you lose every argument you have with somebody who is uneducated about this picture. Okay, regardless of what you say, Dean, you're not going to change my mind.
You're positing that I'm losing. You're not proving
I'm not positing. No, I know you
can't because of all of the arguments I gave you. Somebody's getting very mad because if I was truly losing the debate,
you're the one that's getting mad.
Then you would be able to dispute the evidence I've given you to support my hypothesis. But instead of you disputing the evidence I gave you to support my hypothesis, you've instead just decided, Dean, you're clearly losing. Now let's talk about trans people. Whatever, by the way, for future reference, for everybody watching this live, if you're ever watching a debate between a progressive and a conservative, and the progressive makes a point, the conservative gives a response, then the progressive debunks the response, then the conservative goes, you're clearly losing, now let's talk about trans people. The progressive absolutely fucking home runned the baseball out of the field. All right, all I'm gonna say.
I can say the same thing about you, Dean. The second you're in a debate with somebody that starts to make sense and starts to prove you wrong, you go ahead and reword everything against them to make it look like you're right, to spin the words on them so that you look like you're right, and that is exactly what you do, Dean.
Wait. So you just said that I'm using words I'm able to demonstrate how I'm right?
No, I said you're spinning.
What a fucking stupid! What a stupid person we're talking to.
Dean, you just did it.
What a stupid person we're talking to. Alex just said, Dean, I could say the same thing about you. Dean, you are losing this debate, and the reason why I know that you're losing this debate is because you're making it look like you're winning the debate.
You take people's words and you turn it against them. I'm not talking about in just this debate. Dean, I watch you debate all the time. I always join your cues and everything. Sometimes, of course, I leave when, people are taking too long to land their plane or anything. Just like the last guy, Tommy, you had, he was only up here to have a financial discussion with you rather than having a debate. Although, yes, some points he made was really good. He was actually more leftist than he was a right winger. On top of that, back to the topic of the picture in which you wanted to discuss. Yeah, the white robe resembles purity, but what if the red resembles him being Republican? You don't want to talk about that, do you? I mean, if it was Biden and he did that and he put a blue overall slash whatever you want to call it on, would you then go ahead and say, oh, no. Back in history, they didn't use blue, they used red. You'd probably say some crap like that if it was Biden or Kamala that did that, wouldn't you?
Okay, so your new counter-argument is once again to try to suggest another what-if hypothesis with no evidence for it to be true.
Correct, because it's a could be. We don't know for sure. It's a could be, and even though I know it's a could be, it is. But
we have to support our what-if hypotheses with evidence, which is what I did, and you're not doing. Imagine that we're in a courtroom. Okay, we're in a jury. We're trying to adjudicate somebody's guilt. Okay, this person's being accused of murder. Okay, the evidence that they murdered, the victim is the fact that the tracking data on their cell phone puts them at the place of the murder. They didn't have an alibi, and then they had the bloodied weapon that was used to kill the person on their nightstand. And then when they were asked about the cops of where they were when the event unfolded, they lied and said that they were at the doctor's office. Now I'm one of the jurors. I'm supporting the hypothesis that he did it, that he did murder. I go over all this evidence. Now, would it make any sense for you to turn around as another juror and then say, well, it could technically be the case that his phone was glitching or that the actual murderer stole it from him to set him up. It could technically be the case that the reason why he lied about being at the doctor is because he was at the doctor the day before and he confused the days. And the reason why it could technically be the case that the murderer, after stealing his phone to frame him, then snuck into his house in the middle of the night and planted the weapon on his nightstand. Okay, all of those things are technically possible. Therefore, it's technically possible that this man who's being accused of murder, that we have a lot of evidence to support that conclusion for, is innocent. But via the mere suggestion that he's innocent, via the technical possibility that hypothesis is true, does not dispute the hypothesis that he's guilty because of the overwhelming amount of evidence that exists to suggest that he's guilty. And the reason why I'm giving you the analogy, this analogy, is because that's what you're doing. I'm giving you the hypothesis that this is Donald Trump depicting himself as Jesus Christ. I'm giving you all of the supporting and corroborating evidence that this is Donald Trump suggesting that he's Jesus Christ. And then your counter arguments are hinging on the technical possibility of the contrary via the idea that, well, it possibly could be the case that he's using red on the sash because of the Republican Party. The same way it could technically be the case that this man being accused of murder did have his phone stolen to put him at the scene to frame him by the real murder. Unless you could demonstrate evidence that it is a reasonable possibility, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the evidence is the picture itself, Dean. It's how you want to interpret it, and that's exactly what you're doing. And if you want to use the courts, that's when you bring up beyond reasonable doubt, and that is what they'll go based off of, which I think
you just admitted that your argument is circular, because you just said the evidence that in this picture he's not depicting himself as Jesus Christ is that in this picture, he's not depicting himself as Jesus Christ. Circular arguments are always false because circularity is a logical impossibility. So thank you for admitting that you have lost the debate by arguing a logical impossibility of a circular argument.
I didn't lose the Dean. You think I lost the debate because you don't have any more talking points
That's
about
what
it.
the laws of logic dictate, dude.
I'm talking. Other than, thank you so much, Alan, for that. Galaxy, I really, really appreciate you for that. Can I get at least 1,000 Allens in the chat? That'd be great.
I think that we're about to kick this guy unless he could.
No, Dean.
Listen,
that's the thing.
Sometimes we'll come across guests whose egos outweigh their desire to be to seek truth, and I feel like that's like clearly what this guy's demonstrated. I've explained it to him in about a billion different ways about how the mere suggestion of the technical logical possibility of the contrary of a claim doesn't dictate that that claim is therefore false. We did this with a hypothetical of a courtroom and a man being accused of murder. And then he then went on to give a circular argument of saying the evidence that he's right is the picture itself, which reduces down to the claim that in this picture, Donald Trump is not depicting himself as Jesus Christ. Is that in this picture, Trump is not depicting himself as Jesus Christ? And now he's even like refusing that argument is circular. And how circular arguments are always false because he doesn't want to be proven wrong by me because he has an ego and because he likely has seen me debate other people and doesn't like me because I'm on the left. So Alex, either admit that you're wrong, give a legitimate counter argument to prove that you're not, or I'm going to kick you.
All right. Well, I didn't want to talk about the picture. That's what you wanted to bring up. And if it's going to make you happy for me to say, yes, you could be right, then yeah, you could be right. Thank you again, Alan, for that. I really appreciate that. You could be right. However, you have to understand.
Alan as well. Can I thank Alan because I get 30% of that? Thank you.
Yeah,
Alan.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Good boy. Yeah. Like I was saying, Dean, it's not. That wasn't the talking point in which I was going based off of. But if you want to have this God complex that you defeated another person over a damn picture that could be interpreted either way, then sure, based on your evidence, beyond reasonable doubt, Dean, you're right. However, let's talk about how Trump wants to restore national security with ICE. We can talk about abortion. We can talk about other things that Trump actually has enacted and that he's standing behind in order to make himself a great person for the bettering of America.
The fact that instead of giving a cogent counter rebuttal to anything in which I suggested, he just gave a petty little concession, but I don't actually mean it, proves that he knows he lost. He just isn't willing to genuinely admit it.
No, I didn't. Dean, again, you didn't hear what I said. That's
right.
What I mean. You only want to
hear Sal, thank you so much for the $57 donation over on PayPal. I appreciate you, Sal. Let's get 500 Sal W's down below in the comment section. I really appreciate you. Sal with the $57 says, as a Muslim, I found it just as offensive for him to depict himself as Jesus. JD Vance called it a quote-unquote joke. Trump called it a quote-unquote doctor. Get the fuck out. Trans people are not worshipped. Jesus is. This is the argument that we're on the same spectrum. Weirdo caller. I appreciate you, Sal. Thank you for this $60. And it's good to see you again today. You cook as always. Thank you, Sal. Let's get 600 Sal W's. As well as JJ. Thank you for the $24 who says catch. I appreciate you so much for the love, JJ. Show some love to JJ. Then C, thank you for the $30 on PayPal who says love what you do. Thank you, C. Thank you so much, you guys. Show some love to Sal, JJ, and C. Also, Sal, one thing I did want to let you know is that your PayPal account has your dead name on it. And I just thought I'd let you know in case you wanted to try to change that, because what I'm really afraid of is like one day accidentally using your dead name, because I don't make the connection between your dead name and Sal before I thank you. I just want to let you know, because I don't want to accidentally do that one day. I appreciate you so much for that love, Sal. As well as Marianne, thank you for the $14 donation over on PayPal. Show some love to Marianne down below, who says many countries around the world, particularly in mine Australia, only have around a 6-week campaign for elections. I think that I'd go mad with such a long campaign cycle. I think I'd go mad with 6 weeks. That's crazy. Thank you guys so much for all the love over there on PayPal. Please show some love to all of our donors. On Venmo, thank you for the $10. Mariah, I'll check that out, Mariah. Thank you for the $10. Megan, thank you so much for the 5. Charlemagne with a 2. Sky with a 7. And then Joseph, thank you for the $20. Who says still want to enjoy your collective shout out for the night. Thank you for what you do, bro. Thank you, Joseph, the GOAT. Appreciate you so much, man. And then Christopher, thank you for the $20 as well. He says, hey, Dean, it's really cool when you show the TikTok screen on your YouTube stream. It's cool to see your gifts and also what you're talking to, and if Santana or Parker's on there. Yeah, the reason why I only have that on when I'm showing like an image or a graph on the TikTok screen is because I don't want the YouTube stream to become too cluttered, but I'll reconsider that. And then Joseph, thank you so much for the $10, man. Once again, I appreciate you. With that, we're all caught up. If you guys want to support, you could support me on Venmo, PayPal, link in the bio on TikTok. Right there, Dean Withers without the pin message over on YouTube. Now, this guy's extraordinarily dense, so I want to run an argument in which
Dean,
I
can you
like
just
to
give me
run
1 second? Can you just give me 1 second?
It depends.
Alan, thank you so much for that gift. You don't understand how much that means to me. Thank you for supporting my Patreon and everything about it. There are other people that have also sent me money as well and gifts and whatnot on my Venmo and my Cash App.
Oh, all of them.
I appreciate you so much, guys.
So real.
You didn't have to do that.
What a
anyway,
grifter.
Go ahead, Dean.
What a grifter, quite frankly.
You're the grifter. You're the one that does this every day.
You know what, Alan? I actually really appreciate you too, because like I said, around 30% of every gift you send to the guest goes to me. And as of today, this is going to be a thing that I do forever. Ivy, thank you so much for the galaxy. I will be sending that 30% that I just so happen to get from everything in which is given to the bigots that support a rapist as president to Planned Parenthood. So the 30% of those 20,000 coins, which is...
So Dean, do you know Planned Parenthood actually doesn't...
I'm gonna be giving that to Planned Parenthood, and we're gonna be, dude. Listen, and it like even like on like my TikTok screen when I end the live, it separates the rewards in specifically into like the money that I get from what's donated to the guest. I'm gonna do this forever now. That's a great idea because I don't do anything to get that. It's like literal like bigots giving money to bigots, but then TikTok dictates that because it happens to be my stream, I get a cut. So guess what? That cut's going to Planned Parenthood. But like I said, you're very dense. I actually have a question to ask you.
Can I quickly ask you one question? It was about your Planned Parenthood statement. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but doesn't Planned Parenthood also help mothers who don't know if they should get an abortion go ahead and have the not have the abortion to help them out with having the baby? Doesn't that what Planned Parenthood does?
Yeah, that's one thing that they do.
Exactly. Sweet. So that actually does help my point too in saying, please, everybody, do not think about abortion. If you want to get an abortion, think about this before you open your legs. That is exactly what I have to say. Go ahead, Dean. Sorry.
Oh, wow. So you think the fact that I endorse supporting mothers means that it serves to the point that women shouldn't be sluts and getting abortions, which is exactly what you mean to say when you bring up the spreading the legs point, you know? Like it all that's doing is masking, calling women like sluts and whores and being just such a misogynist. Like that's all I hear. That's all I hear.
Dean,
right?
Dean,
it's
Dean,
so
let's
fucking
not,
disgusting.
Dean, let's not turn this
disgusting.
now. Dean, hold on. I did not say that.
That is exactly what you said. The whole spread their legs.
Dean, you're
yes, you're just
Dean,
using slightly coded language to call women sluts and whores. That's all you're doing. You're like, look at all these like sluts spreading their legs and getting pregnant, getting abortions. Listen, the reason why you're pro-life has nothing to do with like any genuine value in which you think you see in the life of a fetus, but it's you rather use that phrase pro-life is a virtue signal to conceal your intention to control the bodies of women in condemnation of upholding values that are different than your own in the context of romance, intimacy, and sex. And then you just use it to like shit on them, to be an absolute controlling dick, using coded language, like spreading their legs to, refer to them as sluts and whores. It's honestly just gross. It's not good for the children, okay? Because now we're endorsing policy that's going to ensure that they're less educated, worse off. Now we're going to reshift in the family dynamic away from financially well-off adults that want to start a family, that desire to have kids, to forcing unwanted children in unready households. It's just it's so gross to me. But now that we got that out of the way, I've been meaning to ask you a question for a while. So can I finally
so you can respond to me, but I can't respond to you?
Well, I said I wanted to ask you a question. You said, Dean, actually, real quick before you ask me that question, I have to make this incredibly misogynistic, demeaning comment towards women. Yeah, so you can't respond to me. You made your little demeaning comment. I sat your ass down. Now I'm going to ask my question that I've been trying to ask for a while. Seems like you're running away from it.
Go ahead. Ask your question, Mr. Brothers.
Perfect. Would you still support Trump as president if he had sexually exploited anybody?
Well, I mean, we'd have to prove that he actually did. Until then, I will still support him.
Okay. If it was proven, would you stop
Alan, thank you so much. I appreciate that. If it was proven, would I start supporting him? I would say people can change. I'll go ahead and be like, you know what? This happened. I know you can change. And we're just going to pray without ceasing at that point, as we do as Christians.
So is that a yes or is that a no?
Yes, I will still support him.
What if he did something even worse than sexual exploitation? What if he raped a child?
Well, he didn't do that, so let's not go ahead and use that.
Would you still support him as president?
If he did, 100% no, but he didn't do that. That's a
wait.
thing.
So you're claiming that you would support him if he sexually exploited somebody, but not if he raped somebody? Why?
because like I say, I'm not going to fall into your trap because he didn't do that. And
Could you just answer the question? Because this is all being framed in accordance with your like beliefs. So you believe that you'd still support Trump if he had sexually exploited somebody, but you also believe that you wouldn't support Trump if he raped somebody. So why is rape your standard?
Okay, no, hey, you
why
said
can't
child.
we just agree that all sexual violence is beneath the Oval Office?
Dean, you said child. When it comes to children, But you know, if it was, let's say, we would have to understand what went on. There's sometimes.
Wait. What if he sexually exploited a kid?
Huh?
What if he sexually exploited a kid? Would you stop supporting him then?
Well, in what way would you say sexual? I mean, I disagree with that.
Yeah, engaging in unconsensual sexual conduct. Let's just imagine. Oh, wait, you know what? I have a better way to frame this. Would you ever vote for a trans woman that has abused the fact they're a trans woman to go into a woman's restroom to then sexually exploit the women and girls inside by peeking their head over the stalls and looking at their private parts?
Well, I would never vote for a transgender, period, because they're already deluded in the head. They need some help, so...
Wait, but you told us that you would vote for somebody that's engaged in sexual violence, but you wouldn't vote for somebody that's trans. So you think that you have to be more delusional to be trans than to sexually exploit somebody?
Dean, again, you're trying to turn the words, but what I'm saying is I wouldn't vote for somebody that's trans.
I'm not turning your words. This is exactly what you said. You said you wouldn't vote for somebody that's trans. What's worse, being trans or taking advantage of women and girls through unconsensual sexual conduct, regardless of it's rape or sexual exploitation? What's worse? Would you prefer your child to be trans or your child to be a rapist?
Well, we have to think about it like this then, because if you're trans, then you can also then have the notion...
I want you to answer my question. Would you prefer your child to be trans or your child to be a rapist?
It's a lead up to the answer, Dean, okay? You monologue too, so let me just have one time, okay? When you're talking about being trans, we're talking about going into other people's spaces as well, which can also cause the sexual exploitation.